Sitting in an excavator, the main character goes to raze the house to smithereens. And all because the author killed her favorite character. This is a famous novel in which a paragraph consisted of one sentence. He eventually lost readers to harsh critics. The plot and characters were so realistic that they seemed to be truly alive. The main character is angry at the author because of Seon's death. She doesn't believe that the author killed Seon with some stupid disease. The creator even hinted at a separate chapter with her favorite character. Thus, the main character received the unexpected death of Seon, and now the main character is going to destroy this author's house. The radio is broadcasting news about a mysterious madwoman in the city center. The heroine almost broke it, and she borrowed this excavator. In fact, she stole it, promising that she would return it soon. In theory, she should feel guilty. The heroine felt like she was starting to hallucinate voices. She needs to pull herself together to stick to her plan. However, she shouldn't hit herself over the head so recklessly. Along with this thought, the steering wheel disappeared from my hands. The heroine thinks she's gone crazy, but the sensations are too real. She realized that she had turned into Michelle Nebathate. And besides this, she is locked up in a dungeon. Michelle is the daughter of the Duchess and heir to the duchy. In the novel, she is infamously known as the antagonist. She even forced Crown Prince Seon to marry her. The main character remembers it so clearly, as if it happened yesterday. Michelle lured the drunken Seon into her bedroom. Saying many warm words to him, she pulled him onto the bed. A cascade of his long hair flowed along his thin waist. Then Seon muttered that Michelle could do whatever he wanted. But suddenly, the main character realized that the memories were different. It seems that the author missed a very important detail. Michelle doesn't have a job, and she's an orphan, so nothing has changed. Perhaps the heroine found herself here thanks to a hallucination. Michelle is in captivity, which means she will die soon. She is sentenced to death for treason against the royal family. And since Michelle is alive now, it means that she will soon be executed. The heroine is a fan of this novel and managed to read it to the end. For someone like her, this level of difficulty is the easiest thing in the world. Michelle opened a window with her characteristics. She didn't like the fact that there was a time limit. She should have been given at least some kind of explanation. Michelle is already looking death in the face, her life hanging by a thread. The girl started screaming and asking to be let out. She wanted to ask politely, but it turned out completely wrong. She received a notice about politeness and elegance, but Michelle decided that from now on, she would do things her own way. The knights think she's gone mad. Michelle asks to let her out. Otherwise, he will do something that will be very painful for them. She was eventually released from prison after much publicity. They let her go after flogging her 5 times and shouting after her that it wasn't enough. The time limit was lifted, and Michelle survived. Unlike the real Michelle, who failed to escape execution, she is not like that now. The main character decided that she would live no matter what. Intending to destroy the author's house, the heroine became a webtoon character. Michelle is the next Duchess, the bright and courageous daughter of Nebathete. Now, while she's on the road, she needs to distribute experience points. The heroine already has ideas about which abilities to invest points in. Michelle already has the skill to simply freeze a cold mage. If everything goes according to plan, she will be able to make money hunting demons. Soon the carriage arrived at Nebathete's mansion. Michelle plans to pick up some of her jewelry before she gets kicked out. If she sells them, then at least she will have some money. She heard footsteps outside the door, thinking that the Duke and Duchess had already returned. But it turned out to be just her nanny, Elion Laef. Despite hearing the news, this woman was by Michelle's side. Elion raised Michelle as her own daughter. Elion asks in horror what the wounds on her back are. The heroine loved Elion when she read this work. And now, seeing her like this in real life seems sad. Elion heard that Michelle managed to get out of trouble. But Michelle isn't sure the nanny will support her in her plan. She admits that she was almost executed and now plans to live without citizenship. Michelle warned that she would definitely die if the nanny beat her. It is possible to live without citizenship and earn money. But Michelle finds it easy because she hasn't faced any real difficulties. As a child, the heroine was left with her aunt after her parents died. It was easier for her to train a lion than to wash dishes. Even when money was tight, she still survived. In 3 years, Michelle will become an adult. At this stage, Michelle gathers everything she can and leaves. The nanny asks her to wait a little before she brings something. She dragged a suitcase, saying that she would go with Michelle. Michelle thinks that Elion doesn't know life at all. If only she knew what kind of benefits she received for raising Michelle. Michelle tells the nanny that it is not necessary and that she can handle it alone. but Elion claims that she will die if she is not around. She doesn't care what Michelle says, because she will follow her anyway. Michelle asks her to go into the treasury. She has already taken care of the decorations. Michelle had even threatened the emperor before, but that was like stealing treasure. There is a key to the treasury that can be used by the official heirs. Elion asks Michelle to get ready faster. Now all she has to do is open the gate. The carriage shakes, making Michelle's back hurt even more. Elion gives Michelle her child's biochip. With him, Michelle will be able to become a full-fledged citizen of the empire. Even though her child couldn't use it, the nanny gives it to Michelle. If a person is registered as an individual in the empire, he can confirm his identity with a biochip. The nanny's child died early, which is why he was unable to use it. Michelle thanks Elion for such a valuable thing. She told her that she would call her mom. Michelle threatened to throw away the chip if the nanny did not agree with her. In the end, Elion asked her to do as she wanted. Michelle asked what she needed to do to get this chip implanted in herself. The nanny implanted the chip herself, without even warning her. It's better to do this unexpectedly, so that it doesn't hurt so much. First my back hurt, and now my arm hurts too. Elion asks to check if the chip is working. Michelle tests her skills this time. Something went wrong, so she decided to check it another way. This is done with the right hand, since this is where the chip was implanted. It seems like an unexpected turn of events, which is a bit disturbing. Skills have a double bonus to experience gained. There was also a high-level skill here, which surprised Michelle. But the status again shows that time is limited. Elion already thought that nothing had worked out, but Michelle said that everything was fine. Now that she is registered, Michelle can live a normal life. But Michelle knows she's still on the brink of death. At first, she thought it was an illness, but it turned out to be wrong. Elion warned her that she shouldn't make any sudden movements now. For now, Michelle has no reason to get worked up. She suddenly tells the nanny that she wants to enter the academy. Elion promises to prepare her everything necessary for admission. But Michelle doesn't know where the nanny is going to get such a huge sum. To do this is not an easy task in itself. At least for now, Michelle needs to find a way to make money. Of course, if a person is talented and smart, then it is easy to enter the academy. The main characters of the work enter the academy next year. At the beginning of the semester, they accidentally activated a magic circle. Moreover, only 12 graduates of that class survived. If Michelle doesn't do it, he'll die. But if he does, he might also die. Either way, she thinks it's definitely worth it. At first glance, Michelle looks like an ordinary commoner. She is sure that because of Michelle's beauty, everyone will look only at her. She needed to hide her sparkling hair and doll-like face. Thanks to the money, she was able to buy clothes and glasses. Michelle is sure that this beauty will fade over time. The nanny told her that she now looked like a real country bumpkin. Even those who know Michelle won't recognize her in this outfit. All preparations are complete, and now they can continue on their way. Michelle asks the nanny to tell her about her hometown. In fact, the heroine already knows about this because she read it. They say that this city has stopped developing. The demon habitat is more favorable for the growth of mana crystals. Michelle wondered what she could sell these valuable crystals for. They soon arrived at the port city of Elam. It turns out that the city has grown significantly from an ordinary village. Michelle imagined him much smaller. They came to the house that Michelle's mother's sister had left behind. The nanny can't believe Michelle will live there after the huge mansion. First, they want to unpack their things, and then say hello to their neighbors. A man appeared who seemed to recognize Elion. Elion asks Michelle to come inside quickly, convincing her that this man is hopeless. But the man said that this house is creepy without any security. Every decent citizen of the empire must have at least one pickaxe. Michelle decided to follow the man's advice and get rid of the threats. She can't leave the man who threatened them alone. When Michelle was little, she brought a dragon into her house as a pet. But a year later, due to Michelle's carelessness, the dragon crushed the cage and escaped. This story came to light because Michelle has a history of hurting people. Michelle is sure that that man, even if not dangerous, is capable of causing harm. The man suddenly asks why she decided to live here. In fact, he was just trying to help them. In the end, he just turned out to be a typical tsundere. The next day, he asked Elion how they were going to live in such a terrible house. As it turned out, this man was close to Elion. Michelle apologized to him, saying it was just like that. The nanny explained that now this man is just ordinary trash. But Michelle also considers herself trash, since she almost ruined someone else's life. If he has a boat, Michelle will be able to make a good living. So she invites him to take her fishing with him. But the nanny forbids her. because she doesn't know how dangerous the sea can be. After lunch, Michelle decides to go for a walk. Due to their versatility, mana crystals are in high demand. TT, a member of the Sparrow clan, was trapped. A man from the Bear clan comes to the capital to find him. If Michelle is also caught and sold on the black market, it will cost her life. After entering this world, she can receive points for plot changes. So far, Michelle hasn't seen TT anywhere. In this secluded corner, she will mine crystals. Michelle spent the whole day and night there, and then returned the next day. She had to look up when she heard someone's footsteps. The man she saw seemed strange to her. It seems he doesn't care about her at all. She noticed that he was feeding the wandering monsters. Michelle doesn't understand what he's doing, waving a piece of meat in the air. But then she saw a wandering albatross soaring in the sky. Michelle had seen a bird like this at the zoo before. This bird cannot take off and land properly. For some reason, this bird looks very stupid and pathetic. In any case, it was none of Michelle's business. So she continued mining the crystals. While she was mining crystals all these days, this man was feeding the monsters. Thus, meeting each other every day, they became almost like acquaintances. This time the man heads straight towards her. He asks Michelle if she is really a miner. The girl answered him that this was not so. Michelle ignored the strange question. Suddenly, she received a notification about an increase in her miner skill. She decides to test how this skill actually works. In the end, it turned out that this ability was very useful. Michelle stopped the man, saying that he could call her miner. She confesses to him that she just acquired the skill of a miner, but she thought she could get the resources faster. The man asked if she would really destroy all the rocks. Then he asked what she was going to do with them. Michelle replied that she would sell it all to the Demon King's domain. Hearing her answer, the man declared that he had to kill her. He threatens to kill her because she is going to sneak into demon territory. But the intonation and meaning don't match. Michelle knows this. She remembered that this was the Demon King's manner of speech. His personality is kind. His manner of speech is awkward. And this character was very popular. One reader once posted an analysis of the Demon King's speech. Michelle realized that he wanted to kill her himself, so that her loved ones could bury her body. Be that as it may, Michelle understood him and asked him not to worry. As an apology, the girl decides to share her lunch. At first, he said the taste was okay, but when he swallowed it, he didn't like it. Michelle apologized, saying she couldn't cook. It turns out that this man knows how to be quite supportive. He is kind and decent and cares for animals. Michelle decides to introduce herself to him as Evan Laef, since that is her chip. This man also introduces himself, calling himself Gert. Michelle told him that she would come here again tomorrow. The next day, Gert thanked her with his food, saying that he made it himself. Gert asks her to try it. Of course, the food turned out to be incredibly delicious. Gert declares that he has a child, and no one will want to marry him. He is about 500 years old. He has long since lost count. Even in the original, it was mentioned that demon people live a long time. Gert is a lizard demon and does not age. Michelle said that being such a demon was awesome, and he asked what that meant. Eventually, the girl explained to him the meaning of this word. Gert says he's now going home in style. Michelle thought he didn't like the word. Soon the magic crystals ran out. It's been a month since Michelle ran away. He and Eliane are doing a lot of things to get into college. Now, Michelle will wander around the city in search of a blacksmith. She noticed women huddled together and discussing something. Eliane asked her to greet the others and leave. Michelle remembers her asking her to greet everyone kindly. So the girl decided to try and ask what happened here. They asked her to look at the bruises of one of the recruits. When her husband drinks, he behaves terribly and gets violent. Michelle decided that she should visit this girl's house. She told her that she had heard rumors that her husband needed to be corrected. The heroine warned that this, of course, is not free. Before she ran away, Michelle told her where she lived. Now she went to get the harpoon, as she had planned. She told the blacksmith that she would buy a custom-made harpoon. She threatened that when the harpoon was ready, he would be her first target. That night, Michelle heard someone knocking on the door. It turned out to be the girl whose face had even more wounds on it. Michelle promises her that he can solve this problem. The girl says that this amount is too much for her, but Michelle decided that she could pay in installments. The girl agrees without any problems, and they go to her house. Michelle promises to look after her husband until he mends his ways. She already had experience working with people who drank heavily. The man indignantly asks how she dares to break into someone else's house. He calls her a punk, asking where she came from. Such a person can only be subdued by great violence. Michelle held the man in the bathhouse until he lost consciousness. She is going to test her skill on this commoner. When activating a skill, mind energy is used at the beginning. If you spend stamina, you will start coughing. And if the stamina runs out, the remaining life energy will be used. Michelle has never coughed up blood from using freezing incorrectly. This means that the effectiveness of her skill is not that bad. The man's hand began to slowly become covered in ice. He hasn't fully seen the light yet. Michelle tells him to be more serious. She reminds him that he should have treated his wife well. But the man claims he did nothing wrong. After only 10 minutes, he was asking for forgiveness and mercy. Michelle asks the girl to pay here and now. She warns the man that she lives nearby, and she will return if rumors about his behavior reach her again. And if he pretends to be innocent, she will kill him. The girl gave her the first part of the money, and she can return the rest later. Michelle asks her to contact her if she needs anything. The girl was glad that she was helped and thanked her for it. And so a week of successful completion of the assignment passed. Word spread quickly, and people started coming for help. Michelle has dealt with big problems and not so big ones. Thanks to the use of freezing, its level rose quickly. Now Michelle needs to focus on finding TT. She put her experience into health skill. Now she can run fast without getting out of breath. If things go on as planned, she might find TT within the day. The notification showed her that a new skill had been created. Michelle suddenly developed a searching skill. It seems that this happened thanks to an additional skill. But this, of course, could not help but please Michelle. Now she can see all the details of the area and hear quiet sounds. She didn't think she could find TT so quickly, but she was lucky. Unlike Gert, TT is one of the main characters. But Michelle didn't expect him to look like a bird. TT somehow got trapped and now can't get out. In the original, when he was caught, Michelle thought it was serious. If you set up a net where birds fly, they will definitely get entangled in it. The bird simply needs to be untied and allowed to fall to the ground. Michelle asks TT to sit still while she helps him. Thanks to her help, points are immediately credited to her balance. She asks the bird to try not to fall into such traps again. Something bothered Michelle after the 2 status windows appeared. She's curious about where the experience points for changing the plot will go. Her glasses were almost duplicated, which is good news. The mining was worth it anyway. She updated 2 windows of her status. TT followed Michelle, not letting go of her. Michelle doesn't understand why TT is hanging around. She hadn't noticed before that TT had injured his wing. But Michelle isn't sure she needs to bother with treatment. She asks him to go about his business. Of course, if it is a half-human and not just a bird, then he will obey her. But when Michelle returned, TT was still with her. Michelle is a teenager who ran away from home. Even though she plans to return at sunset, it is still an escape. Yesterday, Elion tried to help an injured bird. Using his injury, TT captured Elion's attention. Michelle told them both to live happily ever after. Elion said they couldn't go south. Michelle was about to leave, but the nanny asked him to stop. If Michelle's name is her full name, she will definitely die. This is the second time Michelle has escaped. The girl she met unexpectedly thanked her. She helped her find her child who had run away from home. The harpoon Michelle ordered is finally ready. Getting close to the villagers also has its advantages. The seller's character is intolerable, but the product turned out great. Michelle asked the blacksmith to lower the price a little, but he throws her out and asks her not to come here anymore. Michelle doesn't understand why he's so hot-tempered. Now that she has the harpoon, she needs to find the boat. Now she needs to get a skills assessment certificate. Michelle said she couldn't be an adventurer. Still, if she's thirsty for adventure, there's nothing better than the sea. Thomas Elam is a fisherman, and today, Elion will kill him with his own hands. First, Michelle came with the words that she was her daughter, and then she snuck onto his boat. Michelle analyzes the sea and looks for big fish. She showed Thomas that she had a searching skill. The man was surprised when he saw that she was already at level 4. When they discovered a school of fish, they realized that Michelle had not deceived them. Thomas asks Michelle where they should turn next, but the girl suddenly asked how many marlin there were. She said she was going to catch a marlin. As a result, she became very tired from swallowing seawater. She managed to catch a marlin because 20,000 crowns cannot be missed. The man looks at the fish in shock, declaring that he will definitely die. But Michelle, smiling, replied that he would not die so easily. Next time she asks him to swim even longer. But Thomas would rather die than go anywhere with her again. They sold the mackerel, and Thomas asks Michelle to be together forever. Thomas tells Elion that it would be better if he took Michelle with him. He sees Elion's eyes light up with rage. Elion returns home after a scolding given by her ward. Michelle said she simply had to catch a tuna today. One day the guild leader came, begging her to join them. Since then, there has not been a day when people have not been looking for Elion. Sometimes they even come and bring money. It turns out that for parents, the mistress is something like a nanny. Elion noticed that Michelle had matured a lot since their first meeting. Elion is worried because Michelle has become so kind. She wonders who Michelle Nebethet really is. Elion considers only her parents, the Duke and Duchess, to be her equals. She must have been lucky to have raised Michelle all her life. It seems that Michelle's character has become more simple. Elion is even glad that she lived to see this moment. Since Michelle decided to start her life with a clean slate, there would be no more incidents. At the same time, in the vastness of the ocean, Michelle is fishing. Thomas asked her what she had thrown there, but Michelle replied that nothing. The man suddenly felt a bad premonition. The last thing Michelle took before leaving was a family heirloom. In times when water was a great value, members of the Nebethet clan were able to obtain it through magic. By selling water in large quantities, the family managed to make fabulous money. The Nebethet family was appointed by the emperor as the main source of water. One day, the founder of the family was digging in a well and found a pair of rings. The family actively used these rings to profitably extract water. The magician is not really a magician, because he achieved everything with the help of the relic. 30 years ago, a waterfall was built in the empire, making it pointless to sell water. The artifacts are currently carefully preserved as family heirlooms. All this is to say that Michelle stole one of these rings when she ran away from home. She threw the ring straight into the sea, which swallows everything. Now you need to put on the ring, and the process will begin on its own. With her freezing skill, water turns into icicles. If she aims well, it will turn into a real harpoon. When Thomas asked her why she was obsessed with tuna, she replied that it was expensive. She doesn't have the money for the down payment to enter the academy. Thomas even shed a tear, not knowing that she was so cool. He promises her that they will go to sea every day. The next day, they reported that there would be a typhoon. They were already prepared to go out to sea, and then there was such disappointment. Instead of tuna, Michelle will go digging for the first time in a long time. The safe zone is almost out of crystals. She thought she should go a little further. Unexpectedly, she met Gert, whom she had not seen for a long time. Gert said that people grow up so fast. Suddenly, someone barked behind him. It turned out to be a fox, and Gert said that he would not touch her. Michelle understands what the fox wants to tell her, since she has this skill. Michelle realized that Gert had noticed how much she had bulked up and wanted to touch her muscles. He wants to know if it was a result of physical training or something else. Since there is no increase in muscle, Gert thinks it is due to skill. Michelle tells him that she won't come here again anyway. This time, it was not difficult for her to understand the fox, who turned out to be talkative. But it seems that Gert still didn't understand anything. He asked Michelle how he could see her then. Michelle showed him the way to get to her house. His name is Hubert, and he is a fox demon. There are reasons why he came out today, with his father Gert looking like that. Earlier in the monster tower, Gert said that he would see Michelle again. Hubert's father has been dating a girl for several days in a row, so he decides to ask who this Michelle is. It's easy for this woman to get magic stones. He thinks his father misunderstood the trembling village girl's manners. But one day, Gert said that Michelle had not come for several days, and this is the reason why he refused to eat for several days. So Hubert got ready to go for a walk with his father to catch Michelle. But suddenly, when he saw her, he froze. Hubert feels the oppressive aura from her. He's glad she only mined crystals and not monsters. He also feels her magic constantly growing. Hubert concluded that his father's choice was good. At first sight, Huber saw in her his future mother. Huber is going to support his father as much as he can. Gert will lose his son's respect if he uses the word super. That same evening, the son asks Gert to put on a beautiful cape before going to Michelle. He believes that one should look a little more beautiful and younger. If this continues, Michelle won't even become a mistress. Hubert persuades his father to take the gift with him. In the human world, manners are just as important, and there will also be Michelle's mother, who is a nanny. But Gert doesn't know anything about her at all, so he has no idea what to prepare. He wondered if Elion might have the same personality as Michelle. In the end, Gert promises that he will take care of it. Next, we move on to the next day. Elion is not sure that he will come to them in such weather. It's been 2 months since they met, and Gert doesn't seem like the type to break his promises. But Gert actually came, despite the downpour. He wasn't even wet, and Michelle asked if everything was okay. Elion remembers that the young gentleman has a son. She said that the lady's friend cannot be ordinary. Michelle thought Gert was using a skill to keep from getting wet. He brought with him something that his son asked him to take with him. Elion looks like she was really looking forward to this gift. To Michelle, it looks more like a bag than a garment. Contrary to Gert's expectations, Michelle's mother looks like her. Elion offered to stay, but he can't, because his son is waiting for him at home. Elion assumed that his child was still very young. Gert says his child has just become an adult. The nanny decides to introduce Gert to the sparrow Titi, and after that, she also gave her name. Gert also forgot to introduce himself, so he does it now. It seems that Michelle didn't expect him to be a monster lord. He is one of the 4 great demon kings. Among the 4 demon lords, Gert is the king. His manner of speech was similar to this. Michelle had noticed this long ago. She wondered what happened to the original king if Gert was the overlord. Michelle thought the king was a fox demon, but it was just his son pretending to be one. If Michelle doesn't change her awkward tone, Gert won't tell her anything. In the end, he says that it was about 200 years ago. He asked what animal form the demon king had. The girl wondered what he was getting at. They were not happy that the lord of the monsters, the lizard demon, was similar to the dragon king. Since they were similar, he came to Gert's tower and started to make a scene. Michelle wondered why there were so few adequate people in this world, but Elion told her not to say that. Gert speaks strangely and is actually strange, but he looks great. Michelle invites him to have dinner together. She also asks him not to be shy and to ask whatever he wants. But such food is poison for him. It is tasteless. There was something else his son advised him to say. Gert wants to formally ask permission to have a relationship with Michelle. Michelle is sure he means a friendly relationship. Elion realized that she shouldn't have listened to him at all. Michelle explained that she already considers him her friend, but Gert said he wanted her to be the mother of his children. Elion was visibly enraged by what he said. She started hitting him with a broom and asking him to get out of there. But Michelle thinks that anyone would go crazy in such a situation. But nevertheless, she is not angry at Gert's proposal. She stands up for Gert and asks Elion to stop. Michel promises to talk later, but now Gerda needs to go. Gerda promised her that he would come next time. But the nanny is not going to let her father in here alone anymore. Michelle thought that experience points could only be obtained by changing the original plot. But she only has ordinary skills in both statuses. But she has more than enough points. If she doesn't level up her skills, she'll lose everything. Suddenly, Michelle felt a sharp dizziness. Too many notifications popped up in front of my eyes at once. The girl feels that the nausea does not stop. She realized that she was about to pass out. In the Duchy of Nebethet, the bureau chief stated that they had managed to locate Michelle. Duke Pilot cannot believe his ears that his daughter has been found. Michelle is said to be hiding in the nanny's hometown. Pilot looks at the photos to make sure Michelle is okay. He looked closely, trying to figure out what his daughter was wearing. The manager asks to take a closer look to make sure it really is her. He suggests that Michelle disguised herself on purpose. Pilot concluded that his daughter was a genius of disguise. The lady is in Elam and is planning to enter the academy. Pila knows that graduating from the academy means regaining his noble title. Just being accepted there already has a huge status. There is a martial arts department there where warriors are trained. There is also a magic faculty that trains magicians. His unfortunate daughter Michelle is hoping to regain her title. Pilot says how smart, beautiful, and enterprising Michelle is. He thinks that it will be beneficial for the powerful prince to be with their intelligent daughter. But no matter how smart she is, Pilot will have a hard time making the down payment. He asks that everything possible be done to support Michelle. The manager reports that Michelle has already saved up the required amount. And if things continue like this, she will collect the second one. Pilot says that his daughter is truly a genius. Pilot decides that their family will provide support only in exceptional cases. For now, he offers to pack Prince Sayan with their Michelle. He rejected her, but Pilot said they would brainwash him. Michelle's younger brother Lael learns that his sister is entering the academy. He is delighted with such wonderful news. Lael gets a chance to see Michelle again. Michelle and Lael used to live in perfect harmony. He doesn't care that Michelle couldn't remember his name until she was 15. Lael will also be applying and asks to hire tutors. Pilot is surprised that Lael still considers his sister a role model. Even though her father is not around, he will always support Michelle. When Michelle woke up, she thought she was about to die. Elion and Thomas ran towards her in panic. Thomas said she suddenly started vomiting blood. Elion is sure that it is all because of Gert, who shocked her. Next time, Michelle won't level up her skills so thoughtlessly. She has an improved version of Grace. Thanks to this skill, In this state, her academic life will go down the drain. The beast's aura remains. The name of this skill is terrifying. It's better than treating someone with royal blood with respect. Now, Michelle wondered where she could test it. She asked Elion and Thomas to close their mouths because they were too noisy. Thomas was horrified by this behavior. Michelle didn't expect to speak even more harshly than before. It takes some strength to figure it all out. But Michelle doesn't have them, and she switches off again. While she lay unconscious, she was visited by demons, Gert's friends. The tiger demon came to check if she had recovered. Gert seems to have several friends thanks to his personality. Gert told her so much, but he didn't come. In this confusing state, Michelle went tuna fishing. Half of the savings are there, but it is still not enough. Suddenly, she felt an attack and dodged. The tiger demon didn't expect her to notice him. Michelle herself did not expect such a reaction from herself. The demon admits that she really isn't bad. Michelle realized that it was Gert's friend who was visiting her. But since he attacked first, she attacks him too. Heirloom water is used, which absorbs less energy. It is impossible to strain an organism that is not fully recovered for long. That's why Michelle hopes to finish with him as soon as possible. The demon asks not to look down on him. He didn't notice how she crept up on him unnoticed. In the end, he admits that she exceeded all his expectations. The demon admits that he is lost and has no other choice. Gert's son made such a noise that he couldn't help but come here. Michelle told him that she was not the queen of the monsters. But the demon says that there is no one better than the king of the monsters. He gives her a modest gift and leaves. Michelle doesn't understand what this idiot is doing. It turned out to be the core of a demon beast, for which they were willing to pay 10 million crowns. It turns out that the tiger demon is very generous. Michelle still continues to work part-time at the request of residents. And at sea, she finally managed to catch a tuna. Thomas noticed her expression and asked why she was crying. He was horrified to see Michelle coughing up blood. Waking up, Michelle sees a familiar ceiling. She thinks she passed out due to overexertion. The inhabitants of this village are overly talkative and unfriendly. Michelle wants to stay with the nanny, but the application deadline is approaching. Soon, the rumor that Michelle has a lot of money will spread throughout the area. Moreover, Michelle is worried about Elion if she leaves here. Suddenly, she noticed that Titi was sleeping next to her. If you think about it, this kid is also a demon. Grabbing the bird by the head, Michelle tells him that he knows he is a demon. Titi suddenly turns into a boy and asks for forgiveness. He cries and apologizes for being silent for so long. Michelle explains to him that she will only come home during the holidays, and if the boy refuses to look after Elion, he will be in trouble. Initially, the Titi were friendly to humans, but were despised and rejected by them. But neither of them harmed each other. A seal was placed on the human village, which was destroyed by this Titi. And this bird that had escaped from the village and got caught in a trap was saved by Michelle. The story of this barrier became known in the original work. Anyway, this boy will take care of the house while Michelle is away. Now he will have to reveal his true identity. But Elion, as soon as she saw the boy, fell into horror. Michelle isn't sure she has to worry now. Today, Gert invited her to the Tower of the Monster Lord. This time, he will treat everything as his own cooking. When Michelle found him, she asked how long he had been waiting. She also asks if he got there safely last time. She wonders why he came so far to meet her. Suddenly, Gert asks the girl to give him her hand. She thought they would hold hands next, but that wasn't what he had in mind. He has a skill that allows them to get to the tower straight away. The first time you might feel dizzy, so he asks you to close your eyes. Michelle did just that, and indeed found herself in the tower. The tiger and fox demons she saw earlier are here too. Everything would be fine, but the smell here is simply disgusting. So Michelle told Gert that he urgently needed to go to the toilet. She felt like her nose was about to dry out. Probably the demons don't feel it because they've gotten used to it. Gert hadn't expected it to smell so bad here, so he asked Michelle to get out of here immediately. At that moment, Gert's son picked her up in his arms. He told his father that he was a damned idiot and ran away with Michelle. Once outside, he apologizes to the girl. But Michelle feels dizzy from the flight. The guy worriedly asks Michelle if she is okay. Now at least she feels alive, having come down into the fresh air. He apologizes for his father, saying that he asked her to leave not because he didn't like her, but Gerda would contact Michelle later, so he asked her to come back today. Michelle herself saw that Gerda looked quite shocked. His son promises to invite Michelle again as soon as they finish the renovation. Michelle didn't even notice how she bowed back. This means that this kid is stronger than her. It's not for nothing that he's the deputy king of the monsters. So Hubert led her to the house and then returned. Michelle realized that today was the last time she saw Gert. She knows it will be awkward to meet until they fix the tower. Michelle has already packed everything she is taking with her to the capital. If she wants to sew a uniform and earn a little money, then she needs to leave tomorrow. Today, Michelle decided that she would sleep with Elion. The next morning, Michelle is already getting ready to leave. Elion asks her to eat well and take her medication. Elion allows her to beat those who offend her. Titi wondered what kind of lifestyle Michelle led. Michelle warns that she will return during the holidays. Thomas also asks her to successfully complete the academy. Michelle can't believe everyone came out to see her off. There was even someone she didn't recognize at all. Michelle thanks everyone for coming. Promising to return during the holidays, she asks everyone not to get sick. Seeing the nanny crying brought tears to Michelle's eyes too. She even thought about leaving tomorrow or chatting some more. But she is confident that several months will fly by in an instant. Her riding skill made it comfortable for her to ride. Along the way, Michelle cleaned out the bandits she came across. 4 days later, she reached the capital of the empire. Michelle can finally say goodbye to baggy clothes. The store she came to was her favorite in the original. The shop assistant took her for a saleswoman. That's why she asks Michelle to leave immediately. But the heroine said that she was a buyer. The saleswoman didn't expect to hear that Michelle was a student. But now it doesn't matter, and Michelle asks to call the manager. For a moment, Michelle lost control and threw the dagger. Due to the large number of orders, she had to reserve a place. Michelle suddenly developed a poison-resistant skill. It seems that the tea served by the seller contained poison. Soon she is greeted by the boutique owner, Ronelle. Michelle asked her for some bottle. She wants to take this tea to the guards and then file a complaint. It turns out it wasn't poison, but a laxative. Ronelle claims that their employee could not have done such a thing. Anyway, Michelle asks them to make her a Kroll Academy uniform. Ronelle was surprised at the quality of the fabric Michelle brought. She asked where Michelle got such fabric. Michelle replied that she received it as a gift from a friend. If you make clothes from this product, it won't even tear. For such fabric, you will have to use an expensive artifact. Ronelle said it would cost 10 million crowns. Michelle had no problem deciding to pay everything at once, and she will turn a blind eye to the fact that the employee tried to poison her. She asks her to destroy all the evidence by drinking it herself. The saleswoman knows that laxatives should be taken in moderation. As soon as she drank the tea, she immediately ran to the toilet. Ronelle locked herself in the sewing room after saying when the clothes would be ready. Since she is good at her job, everything will be ready soon. Now that the uniform is sorted, Michelle wants to earn some money. At the academy, Duke Nebethet sent something to the dean's office. He asks the man how he is doing. He promises to donate any amount to the academy if the dean adheres to everything that is written there. Pilate threatens to kill him if they don't accept Evan into the academy. The dean hears about this name for the first time, thinking that Pilate was hiding another daughter. Pilate, whom he has known since school, never associated with ugly people. He chose his life partner solely based on appearance. Their child's face combined all the beautiful features of the parents. The dean thinks that Pilate has gone mad from the shock of losing his eldest daughter. If he doesn't give her points for being rude to professors, Pilate will kill him. The dean is afraid to imagine what this child is like. He is sure that she will be worse than Michelle, not suspecting that she is. The dean admits the idea that he really does have an illegitimate daughter. If there is hardly any spicy or salty food in the dormitory, Pilate will kill him. The dean thinks Evan is of higher rank than Michelle. Now he understands why Pilate abandoned his eldest daughter. Pilate also threatens to kill him if he tells anyone about this. The dean is worried about what will happen next and what this Evan will be like. Carrying out other people's orders turned out to be very profitable. Michelle picked up her school uniform, and it was time to go to the academy. She stopped when she suddenly heard someone calling her. People wished her luck and thanked her for her help. Michelle only helped them a little, but they all came to see her off. They promised to deal with the aristocrats who will offend her. Only now did Michelle realize that she would actually go to the academy. Now she needs to hurry so as not to be late. She arrives at the academy's entrance examination center. It seems that everything will be easier than she expected. The dean asked Evan to demonstrate her skills to them, but she said that she would not kill the animal because she felt sorry for it. And they said that she was cruel, and this differs from Pilate's words. Instead, Michelle will kill the examiner, and that will be enough. Now Dean is sure that she is definitely one of the Nebethet family. Michelle activates her ice spear skill. The woman shouts at her that she doesn't dare attack with all of them at once. When Michelle finished, she didn't know if she had passed or not. She decided to go to the dorm for now and eat, The next student recognized these icicles left behind by Michelle. She asks to be introduced to this ice mage right now. The dean thinks that this girl is the daughter of Count Letham. He replied that they were not allowed to disclose personal information about students. That's why the girl decides to go straight to magic. She decided to just shoot where there was ice. The dean's office is only thinking about how much stronger he could get right now. Next, we are transported to the cafeteria of Crowell Academy. Michelle thought that she hadn't eaten such a delicious meal in a long time. Now she decides to return to her new room as soon as possible. This place will be her cozy home for 4 years. Students of the Faculty of Magic are specially assigned to single rooms. The room inside turned out to be more spacious than Michelle thought. Inside, she is unexpectedly met by the same girl. She introduces herself as Reina, saying that this is her room too. It turns out that this is one of the main characters of the work. Reina is cynical on the outside, but filled with explosive passion on the inside. In one episode, she fights a dragon on the brink of death, and it's really her winking at her with such a pretty face. Michelle thought she was a fake Reina and asked her not to lie. But Reina asks if she's interested in knowing what she wants from her. Reina asked her to think about what comes to mind when she imagined ice and fire. Michelle replied that it was a bad compatibility. Reina thinks they could be good enemies. Michelle agrees to fight with her. But that's not what Reina wants. She wants to pretend that they are on bad terms with her. Other students will become interested in them if they are hostile. If Michelle tells Reina she can trust her, everything is broken. It's this kind of reaction that makes Reina feel better. But Michelle just thinks she's crazy. She decides to simply ask for another room. But Reina said there were no more vacancies left. Michelle can't let her miss out on the chance to have her own room. She hopes that Reina will go away if she gets rid of her. This is exactly what Reina needs, more disgust. As Michelle's ice melts, she realizes they are on the same level. Michelle gets furious and asks her to bring back the real Reina. She sincerely doesn't understand where Reina gets such strength from. An academy employee runs into the room and asks what is going on. Michelle used to call him, and he didn't come, but now he showed up. Reina asks not to interfere, because now they are deciding who will get the room. Michelle really doesn't see the real Reina in her. She's sure the real Reina wasn't bad either. As with Gert, there's a chance this is a concept. But now it doesn't matter at all. Michelle needs to kill her so that she doesn't bother her. The manager stated that fighting is prohibited in the dormitory. If 5 points are deducted, the student is expelled from the dormitory. Michelle has to pretend they just had a little argument. The manager mentions that the points do not belong to the restoration. He says that there are shops in the hostel and leaves. Michelle is angry because this all happened because of Reina. She has no choice but to live with her. Michelle asks Reina not to follow her and to just disappear. But Reina followed her everywhere, not lagging behind even a step. It was Reina's first night walk with a friend. Michelle wondered how someone who was a magician could have a superhuman body. It's annoying, and Michelle thinks she's been caught by the wrong person. Ever since Michelle and Reina moved in together, they have been arguing a lot. Michelle didn't fight of her own free will. The day of the entrance ceremony has arrived, and the heroine hopes that everything will go well. It is announced that the opening ceremony is now open. Michelle spotted Otten Pollitt, a character from the original. He is a genius with excellent magical skills. He was given the nickname Bird of Prey because of the combination of his hair and eyes. During the ceremony, the princess laid eyes on Athena. Reina had distracted Michelle so much that she was already confused. She decided to check what was going on with that strange time limit. She keeps getting these useless deadlines. She had just gotten rid of the deadline, but some notification popped up again. She needs to take first place in the midterm exams. It turns out she will have to get rid of Otten Pollitt. All this really irritates the main character. Even though the deadline puts her life on the line, she will cope. Michelle is very bad at her studies, so this mission is impossible for her. The opening ceremony was soon declared closed. Reina catches up with Michelle and trips her. Michelle falls down and Reina calls her a dumbass. But even after Reina moved away, Michelle was still lying on the floor. So she became worried and asked if she needed to go to the medical center. If Reina was really worried, she shouldn't have even started. Later, Reina brought Michelle the schedule as she requested. She decided to ask why she suddenly needed it. This is so that Michelle can understand whether she can take first place. She will have at least some chance if there are subjects with a focus on practical skills. The list included combat practice, moral code, and criminal law. Michelle understands that force alone won't do the trick. She decided to ask Reina if they used integrals when calculating the volume of a cylinder. For Reina, this is a foundation she learned as a child. She asks Michelle to come to the first lesson, as attendance is mandatory. Reina noticed that Michelle had arrived early to avoid crossing paths with her. If it weren't for her quirks, she would be a good person. Compared to the original, there are differences. Michelle thought that from now on she would study hard. The teacher suggests starting today's lesson. All Michelle needs to do is just get involved. It would be better if everyone except her couldn't pass the test. She decides that she will drug everyone and take first place. If you assess the situation calmly, a solution will always be found. The next lesson is more beneficial to Michelle than any other. This is Professor Henrik's lesson on the model code. To get a promotion, he had no choice but to sell in the chemistry department. One day he had a fit because of another commoner. Some magicians began to betray the professor in a mean way. As a result, the professor lost his mind and committed suicide. The more experience, the better to take first place. To do this, Michelle decides to start by studying the object. There are so many crazy magicians that there is even a saying about it. The academy trains not just capable people, it trains the best. The exchange system considers only students with the highest grades to be capable. Magicians are hopeless if they resort to such methods. At the level of ethics, the teacher asks, "What is the best way to catch a rabbit?" The students began to discuss this among themselves and whisper. Reina said she knew the answer, and Michelle became curious too. She replied that rabbits would not move if they were caught by the ears. Some students admire her, which Michelle doesn't understand. The professor sighed and asked someone else to answer. Michelle said that the rabbit should be held as in the picture, if it is a domestic one. The professor didn't expect this girl to be so smart. These activities try to instill at least a drop of health. The lesson that just ended was the first and last one today. On the mountain behind the dormitory, Michelle is going to collect greens. She feels better in nature, but not when someone is around. Reina asked with interest why she went to the mountains. Michelle was just about to go crazy when she saw the fern. It's hard to find, but luck is on her side today. The fern is edible, especially if seasoned. Michelle mentioned that young ferns are poisonous. Now the heroine began to think about where she could experiment. Eating a young fern will increase your immunity. From now on, she will need to constantly increase her immunity to poisons. Reina didn't expect Michelle to eat the poisonous fern. Michelle soon received an application for a scholarship. This is too little for everyday life. If Michelle worked in the capital, she wouldn't worry about this. She decided to earn some extra money during the holidays. Unexpectedly, she came across an index of martial arts and the faculty of magic. The two directions don't seem to get along as well as in the original. Michelle wishes she had a camera to take a photo. She noticed that Professor Heinrich was in a hurry somewhere, but he has no other choice because he is being persecuted. Michelle recalled that he had become hostile towards commoners because of persecution. Having experienced harassment from one student, he took out all his anger on her, and the students observing this said that they would follow the professor's example. This is precisely the development of events that Michelle wants to change. The only option now is to get rid of the stalker culprit. Some of the shards of her icicles fell on the girl. Michelle said the professor didn't like the way she followed him. Henry says that everything is fine, slightly embarrassed. Michelle concludes that she might be following him too. There is no need to endure and strain yourself. You need to live in accordance with your character. In some ways, Michelle is right. And that's why, after her words, Henry leaves. She repeats again that this girl should not do anything that people do not like. She added that her scar does not make her unattractive. Michelle is simply crazy about beauty that has been passed down from generation to generation. Doing things that others don't like is unacceptable. Michelle hopes she will stop stalking people. This girl thought Michelle was absolutely stunning. So, before she could leave, she asked her name. Michelle sweeps, not even sure if she should. The weather is magical, and it couldn't be better without Reina nearby. During the exercises, the power of abilities is tested in order to prepare for real battles. The mages with offensive abilities went wild. Ultimately, the first lesson was disrupted. Michelle doesn't think the teacher noticed her while she was standing to the side. But despite this, she was offered the position of class representative. But Michelle still tried to refuse politely. She also applied for a work scholarship to earn extra money. Michelle promised that she would do everything in her power, but they thought the task was too difficult for her, and Reina was still forbidden to leave the room. This means that no one will disturb Michelle while she works. If Michelle continues to sweep in that direction, she will end up at the Faculty of Knowledge. By the will of fate, she may meet Prince Seon. Michelle actually saw him, the real him. He suddenly felt goosebumps run through his body. Seon turned out to be even more beautiful than Michelle imagined. Michelle thought that after that day, he would lock himself in his room. He deliberately acted as if nothing had happened and entered the academy. Seon can tell that she is Michelle, so she has to watch from afar. But fate itself blew away his bookmark with the wind, and it flew in Michelle's direction. Michelle doesn't know what will happen if he recognizes her. Seon called the girl a village hen. He asks her to give him the bookmark, apparently not recognizing her as Michelle. Michelle replied that to return the bookmark, he would have to beg on his knees. Seon became angry and asked if she knew who he was. He is outraged that she behaves this way towards him. Usually, members of the imperial family are surrounded by guards at the academy. Michelle is sure that the aristocrats are mocking Seon. Seon was very angry because Michelle was ignored. She doesn't believe that he actually slapped her. But it wasn't even painful, on the contrary, it was ticklish. He is so embarrassed about hitting her that he now stutters. Now Seon asks her to just give him the bookmark. But Michelle wants to tease him a little more. She pretended to take out a bookmark, but she didn't. Michelle asked if he was really going to run to his daddy. She heard that the emperor only remembered his sons at important events. Michelle runs away, taking the bookmark as a souvenir. Right now, Michelle feels like she could take a few punches from Reina. Reina is angry that Michelle is so cheerful while she is sad. Reina also wants to work, even though she is already rich. An academy employee said the director was looking for Evan. Seon had already managed to complain that she had stolen something from him. Seon is confident that Michelle will now answer for his actions. It would be better to hear both sides' versions of what happened. Seon is indignant, and this is all despite the fact that he has no authority. The teacher asks Michelle if she really stole the bookmark. The girl took out the bookmark, and Seon almost exploded. Michelle deliberately grabbed the bookmark with her teeth and crumpled it. Now Seon's bookmark will be with Michelle forever. Seon asks the professor how he can doubt his words after this. He asked Michelle to explain what it was, and she said she hadn't stolen anything. Michelle obtained the bookmark in the battle with Seon. If the bookmark was received honestly, then there can be no questions. Michelle can't believe her answer worked. Suddenly, the dean of the academy bursts into their office. He tells Seon that it was not at all necessary for him to come himself. If anything similar happens in the future, the dean asks Seon to contact him. If the dean insists so much, then Seon cannot refuse him. It looks like things have gotten worse, and now Michelle might get a spanking. The dean whispered that the duke had given him everything, and she could leave the prince with him, Michelle thought, not understanding what her father had to do with it. The teacher said Michelle was settling in well. When she came in, she greeted me properly. Her instincts are high, and such people live longer. If Michelle survives until his 4th year, the teacher asks him to come to him. But Michelle refused because he doesn't seem like a very nice person. But he is confident that she will come to the conclusion that he will be the easiest one to work with. Even under his mask of indifference, a smile can be seen. The alert box states that the plot has been slightly changed. Something doesn't add up here. The plot definitely didn't change because of Seon. It seems that this is because of the professor's offer to become her mentor. But this is strange, because this professor was not mentioned in the original. If only Michelle knew the name, she would find out everything. All she can do is ask for a business card and find out the name. She says she might change her mind, so she needs a business card. For some reason, at this moment, she can't stop feeling nervous. A monster's aura can change the opponent's strength. For example, she can barely even say hello to Reina, but she bowed even more to the teacher than to Hubert. This means that this person is even worse than the monsters. Michelle needs to get a better idea of how strong he is. She decided to get down on her knees and even on her head. But the teacher said that it was not necessary to do this in order to get a business card. When Michelle received the business card, she thanked the professor, and all he can think about is how strange she is. In fact, it was quite dangerous for Michelle. But it turned out that his business card didn't even have his name written on it, just his position. Michelle hopes he didn't jump to the wrong conclusion that she agreed. But since Michelle lives with 2 chips, it's not a big deal. She reminds herself that she needs to get the highest score on the exam. To do this, she tries to boost her immunity to the poison. She wonders if there is a poison stronger than the fern. While walking down the street, Michelle bumped into that very same stalker. Michelle noted that she had given up her long bangs. The girl also recognized her and called her by name. But Michelle doesn't remember calling him by name. She shows her bangs and asks if they suit her. Michelle answered honestly that she didn't look very good, and she showed what she used to cut her hair. These scissors turned out to be too sharp. Michelle takes them and asks her to close her eyes to straighten everything out. Luckily, She didn't forget her skills while working in the salon. With a good model, the haircut goes quickly. While they were talking, Reina activated the flame skill. Michelle was angry that she almost burned the girl's bangs. While they were arguing, someone came and asked them not to move. It turned out to be the professor, who said that the lesson had begun. Before they begin, she wants to introduce the guest. It turned out to be the dean of the academy, who came because he was bored. The man is glad to meet and asks to be addressed as professor. Michelle never thought she would meet him here. Apparently, many here have already received advice and want to show off. The world of the dawn of repentance is a world in which everyone worships one God. They say that such people are able to predict a person's fate. However, this does not mean that they can see the future. At the end of the academic year, the Academy invites a dignitary to conduct testing. The accuracy of the assessment depends on the rank of the priest. Michelle already knows that overusing her powers will cause bleeding. The professor says that each of them will be given a counter. From now on, they will check it after every spell. It is not surprising that the ground underfoot is red. The purpose of this exercise is to identify limitations. It seems that the stalker wanted to ask about people with 2 magical skills, but according to the records, only 1 sharpening is indicated. Michelle thinks it means magic for imprisoning objects. This girl talked about sharpening and combining poisons. Michelle even thought that she came from a family of murderers. But Michelle realized that she could level up her poison immunity skill. So she asked her name, and the girl said Kana. Reina decides to intervene at this crucial moment. She didn't like that Michelle didn't listen to the teacher. Michelle eventually managed to defeat Reina. Therefore, you should not turn your nose up at your opponent just by looking at him. Michelle still draws water from the family heirloom. But if she doesn't tell about the ring, then no one will know. Suddenly, this same professor asks her to take off the ring. Michelle doesn't understand how he knew she was using a family heirloom. It seems that the professor is so powerful that he was able to discover the relic. Michelle decides to ask how he found out about this. It turns out that the skill of reading emotions helped with this. This exercise is necessary to reveal the student's limits, and no one guarantees that the relic will last forever. Michelle isn't sure everything will be okay. As soon as she took off the ring, she immediately started coughing up blood. It looks like it will have to be tested separately later. Kana runs as fast as she can to Michelle, who called her friend. She originally planned to buy her favorite fruits, but Reina, who had caught up with her, said that Michelle wouldn't like it if Kana came. Michelle is dying in pain right now, and she doesn't want to see her face. Kana suddenly stated that Michelle didn't like the noise. She began to tell everything she knew about Evan, who is actually Michelle. Kana talked about this quite calmly, as this is her habit. She can't tell that she's in the League of Assassins. But Evan probably isn't the type to be prejudiced against her because of her work. One day, Kana's father told her that there was someone in the world who would like her. That's why she pursued Professor Heinrich, to make him fall in love with her. Even though she was considered a disgrace at home, Evan called her beautiful. So Kana has chosen Evan as her target, and so far everything is going according to plan. As Evan adjusted her bangs, her heart began to beat strangely. She wants to mix poison with a brainwashing drug and hint that they will be friends for the rest of their lives. But because of Reina, everything seems to go awry. If Reina hadn't appeared, Evan wouldn't have passed out. Unexpectedly, they met Prince Sion in the corridor. They ask in surprise what brought him here. Sion stated that Evan was assigned 30 hours of volunteer work. From now on, he will go to the library and Evan will serve him. The girls told him that Evan was not feeling well at the moment. Since she is in the infirmary, Sion asks to be taken there. They both thought they should kill him. He may be a member of the royal family, but he has no power. In generations, high-level skills are passed down through the female line. The same applies to the imperial family. The eldest daughter, the heiress, has the skill of charisma. No one is going to listen to a prince who has no talent. Reina hopes no one will mind if now takes a look at the infirmary. The 3 of them came to Evan, telling her why they were there. Evan was surprised that they came here in a crowd. She stated that she would prefer Prince Sion. While on pills, Evan acts too energetically. Reina doesn't believe that Evan chose the prince over her. Sion asked them to take a bite, and after that they left. Reina suggested killing him, and Kana said the royal family would be upset. Reina thought that Kana was capable of killing a nobleman without hesitation. Michelle thinks she has a date with Sion at the library. Besides this, the dean gave her useful advice in the infirmary. Michelle smelled a familiar scent coming from Sion. He smells like the medicine she used to treat her back. When she told Sion about this, he asked her not to talk nonsense. Michelle doesn't understand how such a gloomy face can be so beautiful. She tells him that he smells like medicine she once used. This means that Sayan was so injured that the ointment had to be used. He asks her to stop chatting and get the books from the list. Michelle didn't think she'd be a porter. She realized that the books he needed dealt with criminal law and political science. If they find out that he takes on such tasks, they will think that he cannot get a proper education. It seems that in the palace, they don't teach him how to govern the country. A new assignment came out in criminal law theory. Michelle learned about it from the professor, and other books may also be reprinted. Michelle asks Sayan to wait while he asks the librarian. She also took him another book that might be useful in the future. Michelle thinks he's a weakling with an inflated ego. Sayan doesn't like that she insults a member of the royal family. Michelle recommends that he take up running to increase his lung capacity. She even allows him to come to their faculty's playground. The professor said Michelle blacked out due to the use of psychological skills. Michelle thinks Sayan's route has changed. There's not much time left. We need to focus on poison immunity. Michelle starts to feel sick when she tries to force down a lot of food, but she needs to gain weight for endurance. Kana told her that her room was empty today and she could help her. Since Michelle is collecting plants for immunity, Kana can help. And when Michelle asked why she was doing this, Kana said that they were friends. Michelle was going to contact her anyway. Kana gets everything ready and asks Michelle to come over when she's finished eating. She tried to bow her head, but it seemed she would not be able to do so even after death. Michelle is uneasy that Kana's skills are similar to those of a famous assassin. When Michelle came to her, Kana asks her to drink a drink. It looks suspicious that Kana is trying to get her to drink something, so Michelle is going to drink it while looking at the status table. Kana laughs in a strange way, and Michelle asks what she added there. Michelle didn't object because she was fine. She decided to ask if Kana was also resistant to poisons. But if she doesn't want to talk, Michelle will understand. Kana realized that this was their first joint project. She has no resistance to poisons, but this skill develops over the years. And now all of Michelle's guesses have been confirmed. She asked if Kana was a member of the Assassin's Guild. Kana nervously replied that she had nothing to do with them. Based on her skills, Michelle thought so. If Kana were an assassin, she would have a bright future ahead of her. Michelle says she plans to poison everyone during the midterm exam, and then she asked if Kana would help her with it. For Michelle, Kana prepared a poison that would leave blood everywhere. Even if it is not possible to create the necessary poison, there is another way. Kana promises to prepare everything for the midterm exams. She also prepared a separate poison for Michelle. But she said there was one more thing before Michelle left. She asked if Evan was really her close and best friend. Michelle has no choice but to agree. As Kana expected, the drug worked. The dean said that everyone should gather for exercises in the morning. Every day at 6 in the morning, there is exercise on the site. For active participation, you will receive a stamp, which can be exchanged for points. One of the students said he was glad to see a first-year student here. He says that he is the head of Star City. Since he sees Michelle for the first time, he concludes that she is new. It will be difficult, but he asks Michelle to repeat the dance after him. This song can only be listened to within the walls of the academy. He suddenly told the Crowell Empire to go to hell. All the students started singing it, and he asks Michelle to repeat after them. Michelle isn't sure if this is okay, but she has no choice. She also felt that her heart was beating strangely. The coach says that now they will be pointing their fingers at the sky. The morning exercises turned out to be simply amazing. After this, Michelle actually received a stamp. To get 1 point, you need to collect 100 stamps. Michelle will be able to score more points than Reina and stay in the dorm. She also needs to eat well today. Michelle has been so busy that midterms are just around the corner. Rumor has it that a lot of things happened in other faculties. There was nothing like this at the Faculty of Magic. Having received permission for time off, you can visit other faculties. Michelle suddenly noticed Professor Heinrich. He looks pathetic even without the stalker. It will be very difficult for him because he will not be able to accept help. If Michelle does a good job, she will be paid well. If his illness is skill-related, then Michelle can handle it. Michelle burst into his office when he didn't open the door. She guesses that Heinrich won't be able to cope with the job without an assistant. So Michelle rushed to help the professor. It seems that he really does have a mental illness. Michelle thought it would be okay since he couldn't work because of his skill. She just wanted to help and get a reward. But at some point, Henry realized that everything was fine with his hand. He avoided common people because of his skill problems. The professor decides to ask if Evan is an illegitimate child. He promises to reveal himself to her too if she tells him her identity. But instead, Michelle says she wants to become his assistant. This will also be beneficial for Henry. If she tries, she might even be able to see test assignments out of the corner of her eye. Having taken a part-time job with the professor, Michelle became even busier. Exercises, cleaning the campus, library with Seon. Michelle doesn't even remember the last time she took a vacation. Reina asks why she hasn't been paying any attention to her lately. Reina doesn't like that Michelle is busy lately. She asks to take her with her, since Michelle doesn't hate her. If she continues to push Reina away, she won't know about her idea. The reason for Reina's popularity lies not in her family, but in her appearance. Michelle went to work, and Reina continued to hang on to her. Other students note that Michelle has had a hard time. Reina said Michelle is cool, smart, and not so good at socializing. When Michelle replied that this was not the case, Reina asked not to be persuaded. When Michelle came to Henry, she asked what she should do. He didn't expect Reina to come with it. Michelle took it because the professor asked her not to wander alone. Henry asks her to make 7 copies of one material and take them to class. There were supposed to be 8, but yesterday one died during training. Suddenly, Reina said she had an objection, because Evan helps him, which may affect the fairness of the assessment. He has lecture notes on his desk, and Evan can memorize the material. He said she wouldn't think of it, but Reina thinks otherwise. Michelle asked her if she also calculated the volume of a cylinder using integrals. Michelle feels like she did something bad. At first, she carried out the professor's orders. Then Michelle took the books for Seon. There she found a note about how Seon dreams, but in reality, he might cover himself with a blanket and burst into tears. Michelle promises him to keep these recordings a secret. The last thing to do is prepare for the mission with Kana. Tomorrow morning, Kana will inject poison into the tomatoes. Michelle doesn't think anyone will care whether the tomato is poisoned or not. So far, everything is fine. There are no problems with the plan. Finally, all preparations were completed. Even if Michelle only wrote her name, it would be just her and Kana left on the exam. She needs to quickly brush her teeth and go to bed. In the room, Reina meets her in a strange form. She said that she would not go to bed until Michelle had completed all the tasks. Reina said that she would definitely make Evan smarter before the exam. But that's not what Michelle needs. She doesn't want to do that. As she was about to leave, she suddenly discovered that there was no handle on the door. Of course, Reina was the one who took it off. Michelle had no choice but to break down the door. But if she does this, they will be fined. But if Michelle behaves quietly, then only Reina will receive a fine. So if Michelle doesn't want to be fined, she needs to study. The heroine really had no choice. In her past life, she was also weak in mathematics. Michelle isn't sure she can even get over this. Reina is a crazy and cruel girl, but she managed to do it. She got everything she needed into Michelle's stupid head. Reina, already falling asleep, said that Michelle was not that weak. After that, she just fell to the floor and passed out. Michelle even thought about getting a fine for the company, since Reina helped her. Before the exam, Michelle successfully poisoned the students. But there was one guy left who was not affected by the poison. He is a meat eater and does not eat vegetables at all. The teacher didn't expect that only 3 people would come to the exam. In that case, he asks them to proceed with the exam. Michelle laughed when she realized she knew the answers to all the questions. Reina talked about solving all these equations and problems. These are tough challenges that Michelle is capable of solving. In the end, she completed the exam with 20 minutes left. Michelle will remember the teacher Reina, who worked a miracle. But there is one more exam where Michelle will be against Reina. Reina thinks she deserves the right to eat cookies while lying in Michelle's bed. But if Michelle wins, he will put up a partition in the room. The heroine thinks that Reina simply won't leave her a chance. In that case, you'll have to use a different strategy. First of all, Michelle is going to hit her in the forehead. But she has no way to properly dodge the attack. So Michelle lets Reina hit her. And while she was in a stupor, Michelle attacked back. Reina became so weak that she began coughing up blood. The teacher announces that Michelle wins and gets the highest grade. Michelle continued to hit Reina, trying to get revenge for math. But if she continues to do this, she will be punished. She was also informed that someone had come to her visiting room. The teacher says that this is her younger brother, who has come to visit her. He didn't like the strange meeting room. But what Michelle is most interested in is why he is wearing that dress. TD tells her that she lied to them because she went to study at a prestigious academy. In fact, it was the delivery of magical pets that brought him here. It turned out to be a lizard, which, judging by its appearance, is poisonous. But Michelle still liked this animal. Now TD understands why the Demon King made that offer to her. Soon the Tower of Demons was finished. They managed to complete all this within a month. Gert's son is glad that everything ended so well. Some rooms received more attention during the work. In the processing plant, the carcasses are dried for longer and kept for fertilization. The landfill was also cleaned and reorganized. This time the work done was colossal. Now Hubert will go to Michelle to convey the offer to her. Gert was so focused on the repair that he lost track of time. The Dragon Lord shed tears because her close friend had died while she slept. But before Hubert could leave, he returned, saying they had bigger problems. Gert already thought that Michelle had already died during this month. Huber stated that Evan had entered an academy that could only be left during holidays. But it is normal for a person to go to school. But Huber asks his father if he knows how many outstanding people there are. He suggests that Evan might start a relationship there and get married. But Herta told his son that he didn't understand what he was talking about. Hubert thinks Evan would definitely prefer someone kinder. Evan may enjoy spending time with his peers. However, Gert will see her during the holidays. But she may not come, having linked her life with another person. Gerta never thought that Evan might not come back. Gerta really wants to continue the family line with Evan. TT, who ended up in their tower, considers Gert a pervert. He tells him that he is too stupid. But Gerta doesn't even really understand what responsibility means. Huber asks to first find out more about Evan. First, Gerta cuts off her own hand for some reason. But Hubert thinks one tail is enough to keep an eye on Evan. He wants to create a prosthetic to replace that limb. Soon Gerta brings a large monitor lizard. Only God can create a new life, not a double. However, this monitor lizard has a life form, another personality. Gerta demands that TT hand over this monitor lizard to Evan. In addition, he gives the boy money for travel and accommodation. That's pretty much how TT ended up here. Evan is happy with this gift from Gert, thinking that they will be able to exchange thoughts. Since the package has been delivered, it's time for TT to leave. But Michelle guesses that he is hiding something from her. Michelle guessed that Gert had given him money for more than just the fare. He modestly answered how much he gave him. But Michelle knows he is lying. Michelle asks him to give her the money back, and she's not going to take it back. She says that if he carries money in his bosom, he will lose it very soon. If he gave her the money, she would return it to him during the holidays. And TT agreed. On the street, Michelle is met by an angry Seon, to whom she must return the books. He is sure that Evan did it on purpose to embarrass him. The lizard didn't like the way he was being bullying at her, so he attacked her. Michelle asks the lizard to stop because Seon is very sensitive. She asked the lizard who taught him this. Michelle noticed that Seon was definitely not okay. It seems that this time she will really be executed. In the infirmary, Michelle decides that Seon will have to be put to sleep. She pours it into herself and then unexpectedly kisses Seon. Seon, horrified, asks what she gave him to drink and that it doesn't count as a kiss. Michelle said he was thinking as if it was his first kiss, but she told him that it was a first for her too. Michelle just needed to shut Seon up because he was too noisy. She also hit him to make him fall asleep faster. Now he will sleep like a log, and Michelle will examine his wounds. The lizard may be poisonous, and Michelle should talk to Kana. Michelle noticed strange wounds on Seon's legs. He also has burn marks and healed wounds from cauterization. It seemed that when Michelle smelled the ointment, Seon was treating these very wounds. No matter how weak he is still a prince, and someone has crippled him like this. This means that the one who did it is of a much higher status. There were no problems with the bite of the Yazer. The animal that Gert gave as a gift has a very kind heart. Now all that remains is to wait for the exam results. Michelle managed to do this and take first place. There were a couple of unpleasant situations, but Michelle was able to get rid of the status. Thanks to good grades, the students were able to receive a magic chip. Suddenly, a girl called out to Michelle, asking her to be her friend. Michelle quickly recognized her as the main character. She doesn't understand why the third princess would talk to her. Michelle remembers that the princess was with Reina all this time. Maybe her goal changed because Michelle got a perfect score. Some guy is asking for forgiveness, but wants Michelle to listen to Sarah. Michelle already understood that she would be buried if she agreed. At that moment, she suddenly began coughing up blood. The abnormal status suddenly disappeared, and Michelle doesn't understand why. She noticed that the time limit had appeared again. Seeing that there are only 4 minutes left, Michelle is forced to agree. This guy apologizes for the princess's persistence. Michelle thanks him, promising to return the scarf when she washes it. But he says she doesn't have to return the scarf. In the original, the princess always protected this guy. However, for some reason, Michelle's head bowed before him. But now she can satisfy her selfish desires. She asks Sarah to let Seon join their club too. This guy explains to Sarah who Seon is. She concluded that it would not be easy to persuade him. But, in that case, she decided to visit him at home. For some reason, Sarah is sure that Seon is at home, although no one opens the door. So she decides to just break into his house. Seon asks Sarah what the hell she's doing. Sarah has no idea what she's doing, but she asks him to join their club. This guy asks Seon to calm down because it concerns him. But Seon, calling him a brat, asks him not to interfere. It seems the fight starts sooner than Michelle expected. Suddenly, Sarah walks up to Michelle and slaps her. She asks Seon to choose his expression because a 10 is not a brat. Seon, perplexed, asks how this relates to Michelle's beating. Sarah decided to humiliate someone dear to Seon, but he asks her to stop. Sarah immediately apologized to Evan because she needed approval. She tells her that she can hit her back. Before this, Michelle warns that he hits very hard. But Sarah is ready for this because Michelle has had a hard time. Seon said Evan shouldn't have hit him with full force. Anyway, Sarah says that Evan might hit her again. After that, it's time for them to go and interview those they have their eye on. Sarah hopes that Seon and Evan have a good time. But not even a minute had passed before Seon immediately kicked Michelle out of the house. At that moment, Michelle heard Gert's voice from somewhere. Apparently, his voice was transmitted through the lizard. He says that they have finished repairing the tower and asks Michelle to come over for the holidays. Gert asks her to move forward a little. It was all because he suddenly felt someone familiar here. Michelle wondered what kind of acquaintance the demon lord might have. Gert led her to the office of the academy professor. He immediately appeared and asked what brought Evan to him. He thought that she had decided to make him her mentor. But Michelle asks him if he really knows Greta. Judging by his reaction, that's true. Gert wants to have a little chat with him. He tells her that she can come back to him later. As a result, the heroine decides to take a little walk. After that, Michelle enjoyed her student life to the fullest. Sometimes she chatted with Gert and Hubert. Michelle hopes that everything will continue to go as smoothly in the future. Today, they will test their strength in a real fight with students from the martial arts department. But Michelle didn't fight because she wasn't interested. They were unexpectedly joined by the Archduke of the North, Eugene. But he is not an Archduke, but a Margrave, and his father is still alive. This is the same Archduke of the North from the original story. Eugene, as Archduke of the North, distinguished himself on the battlefield. Despite the abuse from his family, he defended his wife. His hair is like twilight, and his eyes are the color of hot blood. He was truly very devoted to his woman. These qualities made him popular among the fan club. Michelle can't believe she's seeing him so close now. At that moment, Gert spoke to her, asking what was so funny about her. She told him that she was admiring it, and that's why she was happy. Gert said she liked looking at fat men, but she was looking at muscles. Michelle noted that Gert had a normal build, while Eugene was muscular. Then she asked Gert why he had suddenly become quiet. From now on, she asks him to appear at an appropriate time. Students from the martial arts department are ready to fight Eugene. Whoever wins and becomes the best will receive a coat. When asked who was the strongest here, Michelle pointed to Reina. Reina can't believe she's finally accepted her as a worthy opponent. Everything was resolved successfully. Now Michelle will watch from the sidelines. Suddenly, Evan was told that a martial arts professor was looking for her. Soon they brought her to her, saying that it was she who had taken first place in the exams. Having shown the workshop's new product, the professor asks to fill the bullets with magic. But Michelle refused, because after that, she would vomit blood for a week. In that case, they will put it up for sale. So Michelle agreed to it, hoping that she would not regret it. On the other hand, things aren't that bad. There's even no news from Sarah. Apparently, Sarah and her assistant are just going to school and not bothering anyone. As Michelle sat in silence, she heard a familiar sound. Bad things happen only because she thought about them. She needs to clear the secret dungeon, or she will die in 7 days. It was in this dungeon that the princess and her squad almost died. But of course, this dungeon is not that simple, because it is a dungeon where forbidden grimoires are kept. The dungeon protects books from unwanted guests. The main character found this chapter terrifying. Michelle took food, water, and a bunch of medicine with her. It's good that she finished the professor's assignments. Since there were no conditions regarding other companions, Michelle decided to clean everything up herself. She heard that the building had been abandoned for several years. This building was not demolished because people started disappearing there. But the problem may be the people who return from there alive. One day, the group that was watching the people followed them. Lore Michelle knows she just needs to get to the dean's office. The princess did something there and ended up in the dungeon. Michelle decided that she could destroy whatever she wanted. But the next moment, she heard someone's voices. It turned out to be the princess, asking what was going on here. For some reason, they ended up here today. Michelle shouted at the princess not to come here. But it was too late, as Sarah broke down the door. Everything will be fine if only those who are in the castle are sucked into the dungeon. But it seems that everyone is being drawn into the dungeon. After this, Michelle told Sarah why she asked her not to come in. Her assistant tries to say that the princess didn't do it on purpose. But Michelle is only more furious that he is protecting Sarah. She doesn't understand why such a subordinate is needed at all. Michelle thinks he's only causing more problems. They never faced financial difficulties. Michelle began to list how much rent and groceries cost. Seon, who arrived, laughed at Sarah. But Michelle also asks him to keep quiet. She just finds his face cute, so she talks to him in a friendly manner. Reina hopes that at least she doesn't do anything, but Michelle doesn't even want to breathe next to her. But Eugene can deal with artifacts that block abilities. She tells Eugene that he is fine and even useful. Now she will make it clear to those who are going to steal her food in the future. From her backpack, you can tell that she knew she was in a dungeon. Now she wants to distribute drinking water to everyone. Before coming here, Michelle conducted an experiment. Sarah asks what Michelle means, and almost says her real last name. Michelle challenged her to a couple of questions. She asks Sarah where she got this information. Michelle needs to know how Sarah knows she is from the Nebathet family. Sarah doesn't care how she disguises herself, because to her, she is Michelle Nebathet. She realized that she wanted to hide her identity, and so Sarah played along with her. And Sarah wonders how Michelle hasn't been exposed yet. After Sarah promised to keep everything a secret, they return to the others. There is an artifact in this location that prevents the use of skills. Michelle furiously asked Reina if she was even listening to her. Magic is quite difficult to use, so it is better to rely on skills. Reina and Eugene will get a bottle of water. The princess, her assistant, Seon, and Michelle herself will get bottles for 2. Eugene and Reina will rely on physical abilities. Eugene asked what that meant, as he thought they wouldn't be carrying any luggage. To begin, Michelle will draw a map of their route. Reina and Eugene need to be on the front lines and protect everyone. As they walked, they unexpectedly came across traps. Michelle knew they would be here. She wanted to prepare them for it. Seon said that half a bottle was enough for him. If you go to the end of the corridor and close the valve, the trap will be deactivated. Further along their route, a fork appeared. Reina decides to go first, taking the initiative. At first, she decided to turn right. But there was a strong acid there, so they went in the wrong direction. Michelle realized that they were speaking the same way as in the original. This corridor detects movements and sprays sulfuric acid. Because of this, the team had to take the left path. The most correct and shortest path is the right one. Sulfuric acid rain falls on clothes made of arcane fabric. It does not corrode immediately and can resist acid for some time. Reina asks Evan what she's up to. She also asks them if they are ready to run. Instead of wasting time, it is better to pull with all your might and close the valve. There was a trap to Evan's right, and it was dangerous to use magic, so she'll have to use a gun. She loads the gun and takes aim, hitting the target. Soon she finally reached the end. By closing the valve, all the traps were deactivated. Everyone is perplexed and asks why she took such a risk. And Seon, in horror, asked what kind of appearance she had. Reina offered to take her clothes, starting to undress. But Michelle asked why she took off her skirt, without thinking at all. We need to get back before Michelle's wound festers. But she said there was no need to worry, even if it happened. She took one remedy with her, as if she knew it would come in handy. Despite magic, inflammations are still treated with medicines and potions. She told how, as a child, she ran into a branch and then lay in bed with a fever for 10 days. Sarah guessed she had been through a lot. She almost called her Nebathet again, but immediately corrected herself. Since they have been walking for a long time, Michelle suggests making a stop. She asked Eugene how his leg was, but he was already used to it. Everyone is hungry and tired, so they need to rest. Eugene immediately recognized the dry rations in her hands. Taking dry rations out of the unit is a violation. In fact, it was given to her by members of the martial arts faculty. Judging by the imperial part, they should be quite tasty. The contents are simple, but have everything you need. Sarah promises to ask her parents to improve the dry rations. Reina quickly starts eating, not wanting to talk. Seon doesn't like the smell of the meat he opened. Reina, noticing this, takes the jar from him, and she herself eats all his meat. Michelle doesn't understand who swallows meat like that. Michelle suggests that Seon should at least eat a chocolate bar. You can see in Seon's eyes that he has had no luck in life. Michelle told him that he ate very nicely. She is surprised that he even raised his hand against her. The traps became fewer, and Reina asked how much longer they had to go. They'll have to wander around for another day, given the original plot. Suddenly, Sarah heard the sound of water from somewhere. The princess said the same thing in the original. The entire plot is based on the main character's intuition. The protagonists can get what they need when they really need it. When Sarah finds the source of the noise, she is about to make a hole in the wall. Her skill is double limit, which she is about to use. But Michelle thought she was stronger because she was breaking everything. If she uses a skill, the artifact will prevent it from activating. As expected, nothing worked. Michelle says nothing works in this area. But if others use the skills, then everyone could be in danger. In case of failure, only the princess is injured. So Sarah tries again and again. After several attempts, she managed to break through the wall. This stalactite cave was mentioned in the original story. Sarah's assistant asked her if she was okay, but everything was fine. He asks her not to forget to take care of herself. But she is not an emperor or a crown princess to feel sorry for herself. The lot of those who stand at the top is to be ready to risk their lives. Michelle appreciates that Sarah takes this stance, but because of this trait of hers, her subordinate always suffers. Suddenly, Seon saw water in the cave, which he was about to drink. But to purify the water, they will need a relatively clean cloth. Eugene had no choice but to agree. If you fold the fabric in several layers, you can filter the water. This will be enough to avoid stomach upset. The military may also resort to this method. Michelle explained how she knew about this. She says that after graduating from the academy, she will go to the office. While talking to Gert, Michelle forgot that the Empire's main enemies were demons. It's a shame Gert will have to capture all the demons. Once they have filled the bottles, they can now rest until tomorrow. Reina was surprised that Michelle even had a sleeping bag. She doesn't intend to share it because she bought it for herself with her own money. But she allows Seon to lie down next to her, and he refused. The stones were too cold for comfortable sleep. Michelle knew it would happen, but Seon was still a cutie. The next day, they finally found the door. Inside, everything turned out to be more ordinary than Michelle imagined. There should be a device here that looks like a pen. Sarah decided to find out what kind of entries were in these books. But Michelle immediately knocked the book out of her hands. Princess Sarah must not see the contents. In the original story, the book had such an impact on Sarah that she gave up the throne. Seon continued his political game. Michelle asks Reina to use her skill now. Even though she had no idea what was going on, she agreed. Soon Eugene found something like a switch. Thus, they finally managed to get out. Seeing the unburned books, Michelle asks Reina to use the skill again. She whispered in her ear that all power comes from the people. Then Reina whispered the same thing to Eugene. Being nobles, they understand the danger of these words. Eugene considers Evan a role model for any nobleman. After that, they went to the hospital for treatment. Michelle is glad to finally be alone. Since she changed the plot a little, she gets 1,000 experience points. After completing the dungeon, time passed without any particular incidents. Seon stopped exploiting Michelle. Now that Michelle is free, there should be more work. She can easily handle cleaning and laundry. Right now, I was dealing with someone, trying to punish someone for stealing the property of the imperial family. Sarah tries to tell him that things are a little off, but he interrupts her. Sarah talks about other changes that the thief is just experiencing. Michelle recognizes this moment when Seon is caught off guard. Seon does not want to acknowledge this man as a relative. Sarah is surprised to see Seon so angry. Sarah's assistant, noticing Michelle, asks her for help. First, he wants to clarify the situation. He says that the student picked flowers in the imperial greenhouse. Michelle agrees with Seon that this student is guilty. Seon told her that sometimes she was smart. Michelle hugged him back, saying that she was always like this. Sarah thanks Michelle for resolving the situation before it escalated. The notification states that the plot has changed slightly again, but this time the points are lower. Sarah lost the bet, so she will defend it to the dean. After this, they went to the dean. Michelle wants to go to Seon's room. He asked in horror why she needed this. She said, of course, to clean and do laundry. She said that the durability of things depends on how they are washed. Seon's peaceful life went down the drain at the academy. From the very beginning, he had no intention of participating in club activities. He was short on money and contacted Evan, which is how he ended up at Sarah's club. He has to study a lot to remain the best, but clubs won't help in everyday life, so Seon will find a way to leave it. From now on, he wants to be more decisive. Suddenly, Seiyan heard other students talking about him. But Seiyan reassures himself that they won't do anything to him. Others whispered that he had become a member of Sarah's club. He was asked if it was true that he was on good terms with the third princess. He began to be reminded of various incidents, and Seiyan doesn't like it. He had to run away, hoping that no one was following him. He didn't think their attitude towards him would change because of his closeness to Sarah. But his goal is only to graduate from the academy without problems. Instead of thinking about stupid things, he will return to his studies. At that moment, the guys who were following him suddenly hit him on the head. They are sure that Seiyan is a member of the imperial family only in words. Behind all this stood none other than that very 12th cousin. They believed that a prince like Seiyan should face reality. Seiyan couldn't lose consciousness like that, but he did. And then, when I woke up, I had absolutely no idea where I was. Besides the headache, his whole body aches. Seiyan decided that he needed to get out of here before they returned. But of course, the door won't open that easily. Seiyan has no useful skills. He is of no use. Even the blood of the ruling family won't help him get out of here. If he can resolve the situation, the academy will become unsafe, and Cecile will return him to the palace. Cecile is the crown princess, his sister. It was because of her that Seiyan ran away from the palace. He hates her. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice outside. It turned out to be Evan, who also couldn't open the door. Using the ice spear skill, she managed to break down the door. Michelle asks Seiyan if everything is okay, extending his hand to him, and she told him that he could cry right in front of her. Seiyan thought that Evan never embellished anything. Michelle was surprised that he didn't want to waste time on sentimentality about salvation. Seiyan allowed her to clean his house if she wanted to. He didn't even have time to finish speaking before she immediately rushed towards him. It's late, and she could come another time. But it doesn't matter anymore, and Seiyan doesn't care about it. Already at his home, Seiyan asks her to wait in the living room. He allowed Michelle to look in the closet while she waited. Seiyan even thought of giving her the keys to free access. When he returned, he said that she could come whenever she wanted. Seiyan caught Michelle at an unfortunate time when she was rummaging through his things. Among them, Seiyan noticed his underwear. Michelle said it was a misunderstanding, and she would explain everything. She decided that boxers don't suit him, but Seiyan doesn't listen to her anymore. He asks her to get away and never come back again. Reina can't believe Michelle came all this way to buy him underwear. Michelle needs to enjoy her shopping now that she's been given permission to take time off. Kana asked if it was too vulgar, and Reina wonders if the prince will really be happy with such a gift. Michelle asks them to imagine a slender young man with long hair, dressed in black silk underwear. Who would have thought that Michelle would want to kill a member of the imperial family because of the Seiyan incident? Since Michelle doesn't have any money, she wants to borrow it from Reina. She promises to declare Reina her best friend, and she immediately agreed. Kana thought it was cool, even a little jealous. Michelle also promises to declare her his best friend in another faculty. The ruling family can be very dangerous. They return to the academy, Michelle taking with her everything she needed. And now she goes to Seiyan's house to do volunteer work. Seiyan's housekeepers don't clean every corner of the house. Seiyan is often sick, so Michelle needs to take care of the cleanliness. The lizard is happy to visit a spacious place after staying in a small room. Michelle has tidied up the living room. Now it's time to head to the bedroom. Seiyan asks in horror what the lizard is doing here. He didn't like Michelle's appearance and asked her to take it off. The heroine thinks that such a costume might seem terrifying to them, but as soon as Michelle took it off, Seiyan asked to put it back on. Her underwear is see-through because she is sweating. If possible, she would like to show Seiyan the underwear she recently bought. Since Michelle is hot, she would like to stay like this. Suddenly, Gert told Michelle that it was too early for her to wear black. He decided that white suited her better. Michelle is unhappy that the lizard specifically summoned Gert. Locked in a room, Seiyan can't believe the lizard is talking. Gert asks what the chances are that a person with long hair and an Adam's apple is a woman. Hubert wonders why his father is asking this. Then Gert said that this man saw Evan's underwear. He can't believe that she's just entered the academy and is already dating someone. Before Gert gets even more angry, we need to calm him down. Gert is the most powerful great demon lord. Hubert realizes that something needs to be done urgently. The tiger demon suddenly says that it is obvious that Evan was with a guy. But another demon reassures Gert that Evan didn't make excuses, so it's nothing serious. But Gert says she was wearing an extra layer of clothing, which made her sweat. The man who was with her closed his eyes, ran away and locked himself in the room. Hubert assures his father that the man was just her friend. Eventually, Gert calmed down and believed them. Since the issue is resolved, he thinks that Evan needs to be sent new underwear. Gert asks the demon Rachni to prepare some beautiful lingerie for Evan. Hubert isn't sure if it's appropriate to give underwear as a gift. But before, Gert gave fabric, and clothes can be made from it. Throughout his life, his father never learned anything about women. Michelle is in such a difficult situation that she can't even copy Reina's assignment. Reina had already done everything and went to have fun. Michelle is also from the nobility, but the heroine has no memories of studying anything. She thought she could borrow her homework and go get a bite to eat. Sarah cannot die because she is the main character in the story. Around this time in the original story, an incident occurred. But this time the system warns that Reina will die in one day. Michelle didn't ignore the notification that Seon was about to die. Despite the late hour, there are quite a lot of people in the capital. At this time, an important event took place in the capital in the original, an event in which Sarah visits the market and enjoys the entertainment. Michelle had forgotten that Seon could take part in this. Suddenly, she stumbled upon the main dish of the evening. But Michelle didn't expect it to cost so much. As expected, people are robbed wherever they go. Michelle smells fishy in this meat. It tasted like regular frog meat. In addition, she was offered to try fried starfish. They agreed with the saleswoman on 500 crowns. Michelle didn't particularly like the taste of this star. In that moment, she remembered that she hadn't come here for food at all. First, she needs to find the place where the commotion occurred. In the original story, the main characters met strange people. If Michelle goes to where the fight started, she might meet the princess. Soon she found a place with a large crowd of people. That's why Michelle decides to go there. By separating the princess and the strange types with your boulders, it will help to delay them. Michelle enjoys doing what she wants. Suddenly, she noticed some noble lady. Then the heroine realized that she had come to the wrong fight. Sarah told the girl that she had stumbled upon his subordinate. Even though the guy assures her that he is fine, Sarah does not calm down. Michelle still needs to join the princess. But suddenly, this girl asks for help by putting money in her pocket. Apparently, there is about 1 million crowns there. Michelle asks not to bother the innocent and to return to the academy. Reina asks if she's looking for a fight. Suddenly, Michelle noticed that Seon was gone. Reina says he was with them, but disappeared somewhere. Instead of hanging around here, they need to find him as soon as possible. This girl asks if this is what she paid for. She is an aristocrat, and they very often encounter hooligans. Duke Nebethet still tells how he was robbed in his youth while pretending to be a commoner. In the end, Michelle decides to go next to this lady. And after that, she asks these scoundrels to attack. Reina is surprised by how much power Michelle puts into her attacks. After they left, Michelle asks the girl to be careful. Now she needs to hurry and join the search for Seon. Reina heard which alley Seon's voice was coming from. Michelle came closer and saw him. Reina did a great job capturing these sounds. Sarah has no idea who they are, but she asks them to let Seon go. They turned out to be more talented than Sarah thought. She doesn't understand why such clever hooligans need some Seon. Her subordinate immediately checks her for bruises and contusions. Sarah guessed that these people were from the imperial palace. They are either well-educated or know the attacks. The criminal from the palace targeted the club members. This indicates that the crown princess may be behind this. Reina knew what she was getting into, so she said she was fine. She could not have been unaware of the possible dangers. Eugene is the successor with the strongest military power. Reina is the daughter of Count Letham, an influential figure in high society. Having recruited them, the princess needs them for her own purposes. Sarah wants to be in control of the situation, and she will not inherit the throne. Their club is also already quite an influential faction. Many talented individuals gathered around the princess. Sarah feels sorry, because she guessed that they might target her too. It's strange that the crown princess would target Seon. This foray turned out to be disgusting on all fronts. After their walk through the market, Sarah assigned Seon a guard, and Michelle also followed him as secretly as she could. Of course, she was just his personal bodyguard. An abandoned building became their headquarters. Sarah says Michelle was asked out on a blind date. Seon is indignant. Who in their right mind would go on a date with such a girl? Seon is sure that this man simply harbored a grudge. From the photo, Michelle decided that she could meet him. Seon decided that if she went, he would no longer allow her to clean. But since Michelle has a spare key, she can come at any time. Michelle is supposed to be at the Academy's coffee shop tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Seon thought that she should do what she wanted. The next day, Michelle was already standing in front of the coffee shop. She was 100% ready. Gert asked Michelle what a blind date was. Entering the coffee shop, Michelle looked around. The guys from the club are already here. There is nothing better than such a date. Sion is nowhere to be seen. It seems he has his own business. Sarah estimates that the component will arrive any minute. Michelle thinks this guy has excellent manners. At that very moment, she heard someone's voice nearby. And when she looked up, she saw another person. Michelle decided to ignore him, and this infuriated him. He is sure that she will like what he has to say. As soon as she sees it, she will immediately change her mind. He asked if she would really ignore him with that amount. There is about 1 billion in cash here. But in return, he asks Michelle to break up with Seon. This amount is clearly not something that can be simply ignored. Michelle quickly agreed and asked when that handsome man would arrive. She told this guy that Seon's face was worth much more. And then he asked if she really liked him that much. Michelle realized that this one was definitely from the imperial family. But it's his own fault for getting involved with this crazy woman. He takes the suitcase and runs away, saying that the handsome guy has a girlfriend. And it would be strange if such a handsome guy had no one. Michelle needs to use common sense and think things through. Raina thinks her blind date will come sooner than Evan's. They started arguing and fighting again as usual. The students bet 100,000 crowns on Evan's victory. Sarah decided that she, Eugene, and the assistant could leave. Exams are coming soon, so everyone is immersed in their studies. There are no time-limited qualities yet. Seon, who met her, asks why she is late. Michelle didn't understand how anyone could refuse something like that for 1 million. Seon asked modestly about the guy from the date. Michelle said honestly that it all ended in failure. Seon says no guy in his right mind would date her. Even Seon's smug face pleases Michelle. Seon, out of pity, decided to buy her ice cream. Later, the long-awaited holidays finally arrived. Looking back, Michelle's life was not easy. She joined the club and went through the dungeon. Visited the night market. Now it's time to get out of here quickly and see Mom. Kana suggests that they write letters to each other. Michelle remembered that there were no telephones in this world. Kana lives on the top of a mountain that is part of the Ismail mountain range. Michelle hopes that exchanging letters with her is safe. The princess and her subordinate returned to the palace. Eugene went to Brandenburg because the dragon tribe decided to move south. And Seon stayed at the academy even during the holidays. Raina also wanted to say goodbye to Michelle, but she had already run away. A week has passed, and Michelle still hasn't arrived. She wants a railway to be built here. Hubert suddenly appears, which frightens the heroine. He asks not to stay here and to go with him to the tower. She remembers how they can use the movement skill. In the end, Michelle told the coachman that she would get off here. Hubert hugs a lizard he hasn't seen in a long time. Michelle found it strange that he called the lizard brother. Huber asks how the blind date went. The news of the failure seemed to please Hubert greatly. Since he found out about everything, Hubert suggests going back. Michelle had already heard that the tower had been renovated. She even realized that it smelled different here. It definitely smells like sesame oil. It felt like she was at some kind of family celebration. Gert thought Michelle liked his food. That's why now he also decided to cook something. Michelle suddenly blurts out to Gert that she loves him. Obviously, he did not expect such a statement. At the academy, I had to eat unhealthy food every day. She noticed that something was wrong with Gert's hand, and he explained. But this time, she found it difficult to understand his words. It's been a long time since Michelle has eaten so much. Hubert invites her to take a walk around the tower. They started with the roof, where Gert began growing rice. The treasury contains dragons who decided to challenge Gert. If he wishes, he can defeat the Dragon King. Michelle asked what her things were doing here. He replied that Titi had left them here as collateral. He asked them to borrow some money. Soon we are transported to an illegal racetrack in the city of Ilum. Titi realized that he had squandered all the money he had received. At first, he saved up from the errands that Michelle had run before. When he started receiving small interest, a girl approached him. She is the daughter of some lord. Every time she lost in gambling, she borrowed from Titi. And one day, she wanted to borrow a large sum from him for business. So Titi squandered all his money. But if he wins a large sum, he will be able to fix everything. Suddenly, Titi heard an explosion, thinking that his sister had come for his soul. It was a horseman who asks all animal abusers to die. As expected for her, she will have to kill everyone here. Titi decided he had to run before his sister arrived. But Michelle was already there, right in front of him. She realized how well he was doing, since he even sold her name. Michelle furiously asks how much fun he was having. Titi admits that the last few days have been the most fun. Michelle could tell he was having fun, Titi was surprised that she didn't kill him like she should have. If this hippodrome had received a license from the imperial family, it could have brought in a lot of money. Michelle asked Lara if there was a prison in the tower. Until the hippodrome opens, all these people will remain in the tower. Local horses were fed by people and cannot be returned to the wild. It would be nice to continue working without cruelty to animals. She decided to leave everything to Larry to take care of the animals. Titi said that Mom would return in the evening as she had gone to a meeting. Now they can finally return home. But imagine their surprise when this very house was engulfed in flames. Just recently everything was fine, but for some reason now the house is on fire. And so Michelle's holidays began. Michelle was afraid that her mother might be inside the house. But Eliane had just returned from her meeting. She looks at the burning house in horror, not understanding what happened. It's good that no one was hurt, and it remains to be seen what happened. We return a few days back to Nebethet Castle. Pilot is glad that his daughter will return soon. He knows that the academy is on vacation. The dean said that Michelle was the best in the entire class. Pilot will be able to make Michelle a vassal, and then transfer all the affairs of the ducal family without adopting her. As he thought, his daughter has her own vision. Later, he was informed that Michelle had gone on a summer trip. Michelle has always been the complete opposite of her mother. With the preparations complete, all that was left for them to do was wait for Michelle. There was no news for some time, but they waited. The next day, Pilot realized that Michelle was simply delayed. But a day later, he began to worry and be indignant about what to do with his daughter. He doesn't understand why she needs to go to the nanny if her home is here. Pilot is furious and asks to bring Michelle here immediately. He knows that their girl has always been different from everyone else. They decided to force Michelle to come to them on her own. The younger brother suggests destroying the place where Michelle lives. Pilot likes this idea and asks to burn down Eliane's house. The assistant has no choice, even though she understands how terrible this idea is. Next, we find ourselves in the present time, in the Tower of the Demon Lord. Michelle apologized to Gert for having to sit on his neck. It seems that Eliane was in no hurry to settle here. It was as if she had just realized that Gert was the Demon King. Eliane doesn't like this Demon Lord. She warns Gert that she is against his romantic relationship with Evan. She has a level 10 fear resistance. In any case, Michelle is glad they have a place to stay. Now all she has to do is earn money. She needs to quickly return what she borrowed from Gert and Titi. The closer she becomes with Gert, the better their financial relationship should be. Since Michelle is in debt to the tower, she shouldn't cause any trouble. Some of the workers recognized Evan and were delighted to see her return. She wanted to get on the ship, but it seems that Thomas is not there. But Thomas is already there, telling her to get into his boat. He was once against her presence on the ship. Michelle has gained the superhuman combined skill. Thomas asks her which way the squids are. Some of her abilities may have been lost, but as soon as she began to stutter, everyone immediately obeyed her. She has gained a skill that can be used instead of searching. She wonders what criteria led to this skill being included in the status window. For now, she wants to level up her premonition skill. She just wanted to get a combination of skills. Premonition, contrary to expectations, turned out to be a good skill. With his help, she will be able to get rid of the danger. You can count on a bonus for today's catch. Thanks to Michelle's premonition skill, she was able to easily find the squid. Thomas heard that Evan's house had burned down, and Michelle asked if he had accidentally set it on fire. But Thomas had never even been to her place to do such a thing. Michelle doesn't believe it was just an accident. When Thomas asked where she had spent the night, Michelle said she had sat on her friend's neck. And soon Michelle introduced Gert to Thomas so that they could get to know each other. Thomas almost loses consciousness from fear and horror. Hubert says that people always faint when they see his father. But Eliane reacted differently, and that's why Hubert finds them strange. Gert asked what kind of cart Thomas had pulled here. This is fresh squid that he wanted to share with the tower. Thomas decided that this tower was a great place. Before that, he was shaking like an aspen leaf. The tower is located in the middle of the forest, so finding fish is quite difficult. Thomas decides that he will help them if they want. Michelle asked Thomas who Ilum belonged to. This place is not under anyone's control. Michelle thought they had a village leader. That man from the forge turned out to be the headman. In fact, Michelle herself wants to become a village headman. She plans to build a railway to Elam. Thomas promises to give her his vote. She asks Gert for security, but he says it's out of the question. There are many territorial monsters living near the mining area. When survival is at stake, Gert won't back down. If the number of uninvited guests decreases, Hubert will have fewer worries. Following his plans, Mikkel plans to approach the princess for cooperation. Gert asked if the princess had that much influence. As an experiment, Gert decides to set aside a small area. So they both made a deal. The blacksmith didn't expect to hear that Michelle wanted to take his place. She talks about her plans and how much benefit it will bring. Kuznets also thinks that it would be nice if they had a railway station. If she gets the consent of 1,000 residents, she will receive the post of headman. It would be a good idea for Michelle to make some flyers with her vision. Suddenly, the sailor noticed a large ship that should not have appeared on board. If such a colossus docks, the embankment will be finished. Michelle says she'll try to figure it out. It is a luxury cruise liner similar to the Titanic. Michelle's biological mother, Duchess Nebethet, was here. This woman thought that Michelle had been dead for a long time. She realized that Pilot had deceived her. There must be some reason, and she must find out what it is. Although Michelle has become stronger, she is no match for this woman. The magic the Duchess uses pierces Michelle right through. She can't believe that Michelle is still alive and so weak. She proved to be a strong opponent. But Michelle was no timid person either. All the skills that Michelle uses are blocked by this woman. She said Michelle's level after coming of age was too low. But Michelle reminds us that according to the law of the Empire, people become adults at 20. The woman was surprised that the time had not yet come, and Michelle called her crazy. But she decided that it still wouldn't change the situation much. So she left and decided to wait until Michelle came of age. Michelle would never have thought that she would meet her in the village. When she woke up, she was already in Gert's tower. Michelle must have passed out. Thanks to the local doctor, the wound healed. Michelle decides to say that this woman is her biological mother. Gert said that he would contact Hubert immediately so that he would not follow her. Elion thought it would all end when they moved here. It will still be quiet for the next 2 years. Gert contacted Hubert, and he has another proposition. He asked if he should kill her biological mother. But Michelle refused because her father would be upset. He couldn't bear it if anyone harmed this woman. Gert has no choice but to make Michelle stronger. This is exactly what she was counting on. Gert went on a journey to buy her some nutritious food. Thomas returned to Ilum to help with the rebuilding of the pier. In Gert's absence, Elion was responsible for the food, and TT was busy building a feeding trough for Chirik. Michelle also finished making flyers to get people to vote for her. Then we moved to the Ismail mountain range. About a month of vacation passed, but Kana still hadn't received a single letter from Evan. She thought she had made new friends. Kana even entertained the idea that Evan might have found out about her activities. But she can't lose her, because Evan is her first friend in a long time. In the end, Kana decided to write her letter. But all these letters were returned back. That's how Kana found out that Evan's house had burned down. She was going to go to her to make sure Evan was not hurt. Soon, Kana arrived in Ilum at the right address. It was the first time she saw what a working-class area looked like here. Everything here seemed strange to Kane. From the posters to the banners, everyone works with a smile on their face, as if they are having fun. But one of them has an expression on his face, as if he hates the whole world. Kana decided to approach him, saying that she was Evan's friend. Kana was surprised when she heard that Evan became a class leader. The blacksmith said that Evan was now in the temporary headman's office. Kana hopes Evan hasn't changed since they last saw each other. When Kana arrived, Evan asked what brought her here. She apologized for forgetting to give her new address. Evan thinks they could send a letter to her. Either way, she welcomes Kana to Ilum. Evan said she became a headman to restore the port and build a station. Kana decided that under Evan's influence, it all didn't seem so bad. Moreover, Evan gave her her new address and calls her her friend. Kana is surprised how she came to her friend's homeland to see him. Evan suggests that they get something to eat before they have lunch. Behind the tent, there is a buffet that my mother prepared for the employees. Kane can't believe she'll get to try her friend's mother's cooking. Hubert and his partner run this canteen. Kana was frightened at the sight of the beastmen here. They meet from time to time in the capital. Kana thought that maybe he was the one who burned down Evan's house. Hubert called Evan Mom, but she asked him not to. She tells Kana that he is the son of a demon lord. Kana doesn't understand how he was able to become friends with Evan. Somehow she's sure they're going to take advantage of Evan's kindness. Huber is going to give Kana more food since she's Evan's friend. He concluded that they were close since Kana had come all this way. Kana realized that this beastman was kind. She decides that she will stay in Ilum until her studies begin. But if Evan became a class leader, she wouldn't be able to return to the academy. But first, she needs to calm down and ask what happened. The story Evan began to tell was utterly absurd. She thought about the railway in Ilum because it was difficult to get to the academy. Evan made a deal with the Demon King to obtain magical stones. Now they are building a new port, which requires a lot of stones, and all this is not enough, because the most important step remains. It turned out to be a war with a neighboring village. It is necessary to destroy the lords of the neighboring village and unite. Kana warned Evan that she could get into trouble if she spoke so openly about it. But Evan tells all this because he trusts Kana. She wants Kana to help her kill the lords. Kana promises to prepare a poison that will make blood gush from every crack. Kana is really trying hard because of Michelle's new skill. On this one, he worked especially well compared to others. With Kana joining them, Ilum will definitely win. All that remains is to move on to implementing the plan as quickly as possible. They began to slowly prepare for war with Delin. The village is located at the foot of the mountains, and the Lord's castle is on a hill. Evan thanks the knights for their trust, and now the time has come. Thanks to Kana's help, they managed to solve this problem within a week. Kana also told the knights that she relied on them. Evan is sure that Kana is in a great mood too. While Evan takes care of the villagers, they must prepare for the attack. There is no harm to the population, and a report is needed on the positions that are most advantageous. Now it's time to head to the public relations department. Since Evan couldn't use the tower's printer, she had to make the flyers herself. Evan asks the employee to work hard, as the staff will soon increase. Kana found leaflets dedicated to Delin. They depict Hubert in a rage. The Beast King's tower was originally located closer to Delin. From Gert's point of view, this is a real headache. No matter how hard he tried to drive people away, they came back again and again. In the worst-case scenario, the demons that are part of the tower may die. Good-natured Gert tolerated these antics for all 500 years. Evan will protect the residents that the Lord cannot take care of. Ilum will indeed have reason to intervene. Residents of Delin do not sense the approaching crisis. The first thing to do is to raise panic. They really should be invaded by an army of demons. In the lands of Delin, the knights discussed recruiting adventurers for the tower, but they were unable to finish their conversation because they were attacked. The demoness destroyed 100 lords, just as Evan said. Next time, Evan asks to stick to the plan. She asked them to work at half strength, but they don't know what it is. The next day, residents talked about what had happened. Chirik flies over the entire village, distributing leaflets. Evan rushed to help the villagers when she heard rumors of demons. Evan asks for some hot tea while they wait for everyone. She understands that everything is going according to plan, and people have taken the bait perfectly. They were already starting to worry about the attack, and Kana's potion was added to the tea. The evil spirits attacked them because Lord Delana provoked the demon lord. If this continues, similar attacks will happen again. Evan promises to try to negotiate with the demon lord. TT thinks his little sister is too straightforward. Of course, it was a ridiculous story, but people believed it. Before Evan knew it, she was a heroine, but she didn't achieve such a strong effect. Evan has no time to think. She decides to act according to plan. The next stage of the plan is a fire attack. Due to the wind direction, the fire will not spread far. But Michelle still uses her skill. This should hold back the fire, but now we need to evacuate people. So far, everything is going smoothly, and it's time to head to the Lord's castle. Finally, Michelle and Kana reach the castle. She asks Rachna if everything is okay. Rachna has already captured the lords and their sons, but Michelle is more concerned about what Titi is doing here. She asks him to move away if he doesn't want to die. The Lord asks why they should kill them if he lived decently, but decent people usually don't break into other people's houses. Michelle knows that they are the Tower Robbery Guild, but the Lord said that this tower is an ordinary lair of demons. If they think so, then they really did commit these atrocities. Evan suggested that Rachna leave if she didn't want to see all this. But Rachna remains because she is also an accomplice. The Lord asks for forgiveness and promises that he will not touch anyone again. But Michelle says he doesn't need to think about it anymore. They not only wanted to destroy the tower, but also harm the beastmen. Soon the village was buzzing with talk that the Lord's entire family had died. Thanks to this, they managed to avoid conflict with the beastmen. Without a doubt, they now consider Evan their savior. Michelle wrote down all her actions and plans on a piece of paper. Now she needs to send this letter to Princess Sarah. Kana arrived in Ilum on time and provided assistance. Michelle will have to return to the academy soon. Even though she got the herb in a fight with her biological mother, it was a trifle. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden knock on the door. Huber rushes to tell her that his father has returned. Gert looks terrible, but he says it doesn't matter. Michelle said that a house cannot be built in a month or two, but Gert allows them to stay as long as they need. But first of all, He decides to give her something. When Michelle opened the box, she saw mountain ginseng inside. Gert found this 1,000-year-old ginseng on Fig Mountain. It's all because he couldn't give up the 5 desires and 7 emotions. Michelle wonders what this has to do with ginseng. By giving up desires, one can find snow-covered ginseng. But Gert did not give up. He says he couldn't refuse to mate with Evan. But Michelle asks how he came up with the idea of looking for him. All this is because Gert heard about some miracle mountain from the Lord of Mechanisms. He couldn't resist mating with Evan, so instead of the snow-covered ginseng, he brought another one. The Lord of Mechanisms said that Evan and ginseng have good compatibility. Most likely this lord is also one of the 4 demonic lords. If Michelle doesn't want to be killed by her own mother, she'll have to eat ginseng. And she really can't just sit back and do nothing. She'll eat it first, and then think about the rest. As soon as she took ginseng, she felt a sudden cold. Evan asks her to take care of the others if she dies, but Gert assures her that won't happen. Michelle has no choice, she has to eat it. When she takes her first bite, she suddenly feels a familiar taste. Her levels increase just by touching ginseng. Apparently, this item has an ice attribute. Michelle's new freezing skill has been activated. It turns out that this ginseng is a really cool thing. However, it all ended with her coughing up blood. If she remembered how the dean taught, she would have snacked on something fatty. There are less than 2 weeks left until the start of school. Michelle cannot give up her responsibilities because of her studies. She still has a lot of work ahead of her. A worried Hubert enters the room. Since this happens to her often, she asks not to worry. Huber will make her some devilish chocolate jam. But it's easier for her to just give her a bottle of sesame oil. If that's all that matters, Hubert will make the syrup. He's about to get to it right away, asking if anything else is needed. Michelle wants to make an appointment order. Huber will be responsible for communications between the tower and Ilum. Michelle is confident that Hubert can handle it. Thanks to Evan, Hubert had less trouble. The number of people wanting to get into the tower has decreased significantly. This lord is no match for Gert, but he still suffered. Hubert didn't tell his father what happened. At that very moment, Gert flies into the room. He is glad that Michelle was not seriously injured. He is worried because she fainted twice. By the way, he has a proposal for her. He wants her not to go to the academy and to stay with him for the rest of her life. Michelle apologized because it was impossible. Gert resigned himself to it since nothing could be done. He asks her to start training, starting with 3 sets of 500. Michelle realized that Gert was serious. So after a week, Michelle started training. Gert made her exercise for a week. She thought he was a nice guy, but he ended up being so strict with her. Michelle is sad that she will have to part with delicious rice in just a week. She's been eating nothing but protein for a week now, and Hubert is still telling her to eat more slowly. There will be no food prepared by Gert in the dorm, and Michelle won't eat unless Gert cooks for him. Gert promises to prepare some snacks for her. On the last day, Michelle didn't forget to look into her mother's room, and the next morning, she went to the academy. Gert asks her not to forget about training. Michelle also asks them to take care of themselves. She warns Titi what will happen to him if he continues to do stupid things. Michelle left the tower and went to the academy. After that, she earned some money. She then did a little shopping upon arrival in the capital. And finally, Michelle gets to the academy. After a semester, this place now even seems like home. Looking into her room, Michelle noticed that Reina was not there yet. Therefore, the heroine first decides to unpack her suitcases. Along the way, she made some money from the bandits, but ended up spending it all. As expected, this semester will also require earning money. This time, I'll have to insist that she be hired as a student intern. The professors of the Faculty of Magic have not returned yet. Some students noticed Eugene just entering the professor's office. They reasoned that there were rumors about Eugene's vacation, but they found out that he might drop out of school because his family had suffered serious damage. In the original story, Eugene dropped out of school around this time. They experienced a lot together at that time and were members of the same club. Eugene asks what brought her to the arts department. Michelle said she found out he was dropping out of school. The professor and his father insist that he complete at least the first year. This means they will spend another whole year together. In that case, Michelle relies on him. It would be nice to help Eugene, but for that to happen, he needs to stay out of the battlefield. And this means that the war with the dragons will have to be put to an end. Suddenly, a window appeared in front of Michelle. It is said that she will die within 100 days once Eugene leaves the academy. Now Michelle asks how to end the war with the dragons. Usually, a war ends with the destruction of one of the sides. They have no choice but to fight. Eugene reiterates that he is not a murderer. and asks if she remembers how many buns she ate. There is no point in continuing the conversation, and Michelle plans to talk to Sarah. Unexpectedly, Eugene thanked the heroine. She is the first person who suggested stopping the war. Eugene still needs to contact his father, so he leaves. As soon as Michelle returned, she was given a time limit. She realized how busy this semester would be. Michelle managed to get a dubious but well-paid job. Having nothing but a healthy body, she made a good profit. Now, Michelle wants to visit Seon, who spent the entire holiday alone. As she walked through his house, she realized that he was not here now. Michelle thought he might be in the dining room at that time. There were few people there since the semester had just begun. But in the end, she managed to find Seon. She noticed that he was eating the cheapest food in small portions. Michelle can't allow this to happen, so she decides to intervene. She asks Seon to follow him. They need to go to the Department of Magic. It's impossible to survive on such meager food, and Michelle wants to feed him something better. But Seon refuses her help. Michelle decides to eat his food herself so that he will agree. She promises to make it up to him with a good dinner if he follows her. But Seon shouts that she is just doing whatever she wants. Suddenly, the heroine felt that the air became heavy. She realized it was a magical attack and tried to take cover with Seon. The academy is known for its excellent security, but now something has gone wrong. Michelle was surprised when she saw a dragon here. After that, she heard a familiar voice. It turned out to be the head of the magic department, who said that he needed her help. Michelle never understood what kind of person he was. She tells him that he looks more like a villain now. The professor tells her to attack, and she has no choice. Judging by the heavy air, the professor was using gravity magic. In this case, Michelle decides to take advantage. Attacks blocked, magic defense proved stronger. The professor asked if this was all the students could do. The man then noticed that Michelle had gathered all her ice in one spot. Michelle was about to give the magic one last blow. Suddenly, some kind of glow appeared around the dragon, and after that he disappeared somewhere. It seems he used the return skill. Michelle had completely forgotten that the protection was now removed. But it was too late to fix it. Her ice arrow pierced the floor, creating a huge hole. There was a strong current of water under the dining room that burst out. The water did not stop gushing until it filled the entire cafeteria. The dean scolds them for causing trouble throughout the school. He is unhappy with the way they look at him, as if they want to object. The dean asks them to calmly tell what happened. The dean asked why the professor used such strong magic, and he answered that a dragon had entered their school. This could mean that the capital's defenses have been breached. While walking, the professor came across a dragon that had turned into a man. Prince Seon fainted while trying to dodge the attack. He ran away to the academy because he hated life in the palace. The attack concerns everyone responsible for the defense of the capital. This is a quarrel between a professor and a student, during which they dug a hole. There hasn't been a single demon attack so far. The dean tells them that they will bury this secret. They'll tell people they were just fooling around and accidentally trashed the cafeteria. Rumors spread quickly, and later the students discussed it. They say it was a professor of magic and a student of the Faculty of Magic. Michelle didn't see that everyone believed it so easily, so the two of them were forced to work in the canteen. They have to run a temporary cafeteria until a new one is built. And this concerned not only them, but also Seon. If he doesn't work, he will receive a fine. If he continues at the same pace, he won't be kicked out. So Seon had no choice but to agree. The food he cooks looks like dog food, but it smells good. The professor tells him what this dish is made of. This is a brownian stew developed by a former dean. Seon decides to give it a try and finds it's not bad. Watching the relationship between Evan and Seon, the professor's soul becomes warm. He met Bruno and had a great time, but then he was sent to prison. Evan's connection with the Demon King worries him a little, but the professor thinks that staying at the academy was the best decision. Michelle didn't expect to work with Seon. She is about to fall asleep in her room when she suddenly meets Reina. Reina is unhappy that Evan hasn't sent her any letters. But first, she could have sent at least one letter herself. It seems that Kana told Reina about the letters. Michelle asks her not to exaggerate, because now they will see each other all day. There were a lot of people from early morning, as registration for the courses was underway. Michelle met with Seon, who asked if she would be signing up for anything. She wanted to enroll in a diplomacy course. Michelle decides to use her skill to disperse the crowd in order to secure a place for herself. And after that, the way was clear. Reina stopped her, saying that she was hurting people. The other students admired Reina and Evan. Michelle had already forgotten that Raina's love-hate attitude towards her had returned. Then Raina told Michelle that this wasn't like her. She believes that Evan would not have committed fraud just because of a man's appearance. The other students can't believe it. Raina asks her to open her eyes and asks what is good about Sayana. Sayan doesn't understand what kind of nonsense everyone is talking about and what kind of performance this is. Sayan will sign up for the course himself, but he won't get through the crowd without Michelle's help. Aristocrats usually hire an assistant, and Evan wants to be one. Raina is mad about their closeness because she thinks she should be the one with Evan. She got so angry that she decided to activate the skill. Michelle also activated hers to stop her. She doesn't understand how it happened that Raina is still stronger. Raina thought that only Evan was suitable for the role of her opponent. Since Raina doesn't want to back down, Michelle will have to sort things out. Sayan simply hid behind the bushes, just so that they wouldn't bother him. Suddenly, the battle with Raina ended with Michelle falling. In her pocket, Raina found a piece of paper with Evan's schedule. Michelle's school life went awry, but everything started out well. Working next to Sayan in the cafeteria was awesome. Raina signed up for the same classes as Michelle. But with Kana, she has no idea why they have the same schedule. The professor insisted that the wizards sit together, but Michelle cannot sit with Sayan. She signed up here not to listen to the lesson, but to be near Sayan. He can't scold her now because the lesson is in progress. Suddenly, Michelle thought she had missed something important. She feels like something important happened around this time. Sayan has a birthday in September, and no one will congratulate him. But now Michelle won't let that happen. Raina never attended the prince's celebratory banquet. And it's not that she didn't go, but they simply weren't there. Raina wonders why Michelle is suddenly asking this. Raina doesn't want to feign hostility when no one is around. If banquets were not held, then few people know about his birthday. There is something Michelle can ask Princess Sarah. Sarah should know Sayan better than anyone, because she is his sister. Sarah thought Evan wanted to ask her about the railroad, but Michelle asks if she knows Sayan's birthday. Sarah decided to ask her assistant, who also seemed to be unaware. It is not surprising that Sayan has no friends, money, or support. Evan asks under the pretext that he wants to give him a gift. From that moment on, Sarah decided that their club would host birthday parties. But when they looked at their birthdays, they noticed a strange pattern. Sarah finally calmed down when she found out when Eugene's birthday was. They decided to find out Sayan's birthday through their club, and soon the issue with birthdays was resolved. Sarah still doesn't see any benefit in building a railway. She then asked what Michelle had done with Lord Dellen. Michelle lied that the man was killed by a demonic monster. Michelle really isn't one to leave loose ends. It's good that her plan will benefit the Empire in the future. That's why Sarah will give Michelle a decent title. Thus, from the former village headman, Michelle will become mayor. And Michelle insists on making a railway in Ilum. And after that, she wants to build a station there. If she becomes mayor, more opportunities will open up for her. Raina returns to the room, asking about Sayan's gift. She squealed when she saw what Michelle was wearing. But Michelle said she could wear whatever she wanted. She was told it was too early for black, so they came to this. Just as Raina mentioned Gert, the lizard appeared. He thought he had just heard curses. Michelle uses her underwear as pajamas. Actually, she wanted to ask Gert something. He knows about the human war in the Brandenburg territory. Michelle asked what they needed to do to stop this. It's simple, as Gert says. People just need to give up the north. As it turned out, the Dragon King is still young and does not know how to give in. But Michelle said that people are younger than the Dragon King. Also, as long as Eugene is in school, Michelle's deadlines won't go away. The dragon will be easy to manipulate and will easily give in to emotions. If Michelle hadn't known this, it would have been more difficult to lift the time limit. Now she needs to carefully deliver the gift to Sayan. Soon she finally arrived at the right place and installed the piano. Her ability made carrying the piano easy. Finally, the rest of the boys brought Sayan and closed his eyes. Entering the house, they opened his eyes. Sayan wondered what they had prepared this time. He was genuinely surprised to hear himself congratulated on his birthday. Sayan asks why they are so sure he likes it. Sayan had never celebrated birthdays before. Ever since he lost his mother in the fire, he never celebrated. And now he can't believe that they prepared all this for him. Finally, when everyone had given their gifts, it was Michelle's turn. He didn't want to receive anything from her, but she asked him to look out the window. And when Sayan did this, he saw a piano standing below. Sayan tensely asks how Evan knows he's playing. As a child, Sayan's mother taught him to play the piano. Sayan had no outstanding talents, but the praise of other people and his mother's smile made him happy. After his mother died, he stopped going anywhere near the piano. It is unlikely that such luxury as a piano could be found in an abandoned palace. Michelle remembers every line in the novel that relates to Ceylon. According to the novel, Seon will gain a patron, and the palace budget will increase. The very first thing he will receive will be a great piano. On September 9th, his birthday, and the anniversary of his mother's death, Seon was playing, forgetting himself. Michelle told him that she seemed to like him even more. But Seon asks him not to talk nonsense and to answer his question. Sarah didn't know anything about him either, until he joined the club. Michelle is glad that Sarah intervened, and the topic changed. They were able to bring the piano into Seon's house. Michelle asks Seon to try tuning the piano. He said that he didn't need help, and that he could handle it himself. At that moment, they suddenly heard the doorbell ring. They turned out to be strange people in hoods. It turned out to be the crown princess's subordinates. Michelle had only met her a few times in her life, and every time, Michelle had the feeling that she was not human. These creepy guys just left the box and walked away. They probably should have left, as it could have been a family gift. But Seon, panicking, decided to open the gift in front of them. When I opened the box, I found a metal rod inside. Sarah's assistant suggested it was for kindling. Sarah assumed that Cecile was making fun of Seon with this gift. Suddenly, Seon turned pale. He screamed and asked everyone to get out of his house. Seon began to push everyone out the door. This behavior seemed too much, but they concluded that Seon had always been like this. Sarah's assistant hopes he'll be okay. Michelle also noted that this was not like him at all. When Michelle saw his scars, she wondered if they were Cecile's doing. Then we are transported to the previous night, to the palace of the crown princess. A year and a half has passed since Seon left the palace and went to the academy. Cecile believes that now could have gotten everything he wanted if he had stayed. She doesn't understand why this child left her. Cecile said she would send Seon a gift. She doesn't want him to make her jealous. Otherwise, she will start a fire and cause the death of Michelle Nebethet. Cecile decided that a fire starter would make a great gift. Seon is Cecily's younger brother. She was obliged to take care of him. Seon accepted her love easily, even though he was stubborn. But Cecile didn't understand why Seon loved her mother more. After the fire broke out, the culprit was never found. Later, the funeral of the mother who died in the fire took place. Only after what happened did Seon extend his hand to his sister. Her heart was pounding with joy that filled her. Cecile was sure that she was the only one who could make him happy now. Now, whoever tries to take it away from her will get into trouble. Cecile doesn't know what Seon is thinking about when he talks to the guys from the academy, but she is convinced that in the end, he only has her. In the dining room, the professor noticed that Evan looked like he was dying. Seon is acting strange. He didn't even say hello to her. And the lock on the front door of his house was changed. Seon has not shown up for community service or the cafeteria for several days. Michelle thinks there will be a punishment for absences. But the professor told her that Seon had already proven his innocence to the dean. It's all because the crown princess put pressure on the dean. It turns out she did it because of something related to Seon. She thinks there is something between them that she doesn't know. Michelle really doesn't understand what's going on. Reina asked why she was receiving so many letters. They came from the inhabitants of the tower and from the village. Unexpectedly, Michelle came across a letter from Larry. She writes that, thanks to her, she has less work. The timing perfectly coincides with the festival at the academy. Michelle isn't sure if Hubert and Larry are allowed to enter the academy, so she asked Reina if there was any trick to letting the demons through the barrier. Since the professor knows Gert, Michelle will talk to him about this. Tomorrow, Michelle will go to classes and then stop by to see the dean. But the next day, Sarah said that something serious had happened to the club. Michelle was going to a consultation, but now she will have to leave it. She wondered what could happen to a club that was standing still. Soon all the club members gathered in one place. Everyone gathered except Seon, which is not surprising. Sarah suddenly announces that the club is on the verge of closing. Most likely, Seon doesn't plan to come here anymore. Meanwhile, Michelle had another window of death. She screams that they can't let their club disappear. If they lose it, they will have nowhere to cool off. It will be difficult for Eugene too if the club disbands. Michelle is glad that everyone came out in support of saving the club. She decides to ask why exactly the club is going to be closed. The student council received an official letter. Every member of the club has a punishment, and therefore the club must be closed. Michelle knows that Reina and she fight every day, but she doesn't know about the others. Sarah's assistant said that if you follow the princess, you can obviously get punished. The high school students drag Eugene out to show them their greatness. along with the others. But there must be another reason why Sarah gathered them here. Perhaps Sarah knows a way to keep the club from closing. They will take part in the Academy Festival and win the Audience Award. And Sarah decided that they would play music. Michelle asks what instruments Sarah can play. But Sarah decided that she would be a vocalist. Reina had previously only played the harp, and Eugene the cello. Sarah didn't expect that no one could play instruments. Michelle doesn't want to play along, but her life is on the line. So she said she knew a few guitar chords. So Sarah decided that Michelle would be the guitarist, and Seon could play the keys. Sarah suggests at least enrolling Seon, since he is also an important member of the club. Michelle was surprised that Sarah wanted to exclude her assistant. Although Sarah thought that he could play the triangle, Reina suggests starting the study right now. Eugene agrees to try the bass. And now Sarah decides to move on to the most important part. Reina advocates for the band name Chaos or Destruction, and Eugene would like something related to fate. Sarah's assistant suggests using the name Crazy, but the princess thinks that the best name would be Sarah and the kids. However, it is obvious that none of them liked it. Then, Sarah suggested combining their ideas together. Thus, they came up with the chaotic destiny of a crazy child. This time, all the kids liked it. The princess began to think about what song to perform. Then, she and Michelle reported this to the professor. He asks Evan to explain what's going on here. She told him about the upcoming disbandment. Evan says they have a club where they decide what to do in the future. She noticed that the professor was surprisingly indecisive. The previous dean was the master of the dungeon, and now he is in prison. His signature song is Magic Cardio. Sarah asked the professor to name some of Bruno's songs since they were friends. But the dean, as it turned out, knew nothing about this. Sarah mentioned that she is not here as a princess. She is here as the vocalist and leader of the group Decalucha. The professor allows them to speak on the condition that they do not change the text. Sarah thanks him, promising that she will never forget it. After this, Sarah and her assistant leave. She asks Evan to come back to the club when she's finished. Michelle would like to know how demons can pass through the capital's barrier. The dean thought she was planning to invade the capital with an army of villains. Michelle said Hubert and Larry were planning to attend the festival. Michelle found the professor's reaction to be expected. When it comes to Gert, the dean can't ignore him. He is curious about the relationship between Michelle and the Demon King. He says that they can reach Elam directly, as it is fast. Michelle thought she needed to climb up and land on the tower at the right angle. She's not sure if the mage is capable of such a thing. The barrier problem has been solved. Some important work has been completed. Michelle decided to wait for Seon near his house. Seon thought they would pester him because he didn't come to the meeting. Although he doesn't remember having anyone in his life who genuinely cared about him, he is confident that over time they will stop looking for him. Noticing Michelle, he asks what she is doing here. Michelle asks him to explain what is happening. Seon waved it off, saying she didn't need to know. But if he hides like this, the problem won't be solved. Seon was indignant that she was doing well because she was handling everything alone. He asks what she can do if she listens to his problem. Seon thinks that she will not want to interfere in the affairs of the crown princess. Michelle thought all this time that he became weird because of his birthday. If Seon is involved with Cecile, it will be difficult for Michelle to do anything. Seon says Cecile asked him to go to class quietly and not bother anyone. When Evan said that this was arbitrary, Seon asked her to fight Cecile herself. He thinks that Evan is nothing special after all. For the first time, Michelle was speechless like this in front of Seon. In the dining room, Reina asks her what happened. Michelle suddenly asked her if she could fight Cecile. She then asked the head of the department the same question. Reina thought it had something to do with Seon, and she asked Evan to let him go. The professor suggests preparing a revolution, like Bruno, and Michelle began to think that this might be the only way out. If not for this, there must be another way. But suddenly, Michelle felt like activating her premonition skill. With his help, she will be able to understand how to fight Cecile. Michelle decided that she would become a better guitarist. After this, the professor gave her a guitar as a gift. Soon, completely separate, soundproofed rooms appeared. Michelle continued to practice until her fingers became calloused. After a month, she managed to acquire the skill to play the guitar. With this level, she won't fall flat on her face. Reina doesn't understand why Michelle rehearses so hard. But you can't understand someone like her, who bought herself expensive drumsticks. Soon, Gert contacts Michelle through the lizard. He says that Hubert knows more about the Dragon King than he does. Gert mentions that the professor knows something about the lives of dragons. He speaks of the professor as someone who appears to be a slippery type. Michelle decided to ask how he even knew about this. But it's a secret, because he begged on his knees not to tell anyone. Michelle feels like she heard something she shouldn't have. Time flew by, and midterm exams approached. The exams passed in the blink of an eye, unnoticed and quickly. Now, of all the events, only the festival remains. Michelle forgot that the others hadn't rehearsed anything. Sarah says it takes a little time to adjust to each other. If they keep trying, they will receive the audience's choice award. But Evan said that she has the ability to premonition. She has a feeling that if they perform, it will help with Seon's loneliness. So they should take this really seriously. But Sarah asks her not to develop this skill further. Sometimes people are born with the gift of seeing the future. Those who awaken such forces within themselves usually do not live long. If Evan continues to develop it, he could find himself in danger. Michelle said she would think about it, because you never know what life has in store. With this skill, Michelle is confident that they will win more than just the audience award. They will win the grand prize, receive an offer to debut, and release an album. Sarah doesn't know how it's connected, but nevertheless. So now they decided to give it their all. The keyboard player's position will remain with Seon no matter what. Even if they have to play without a keyboard player, they won't hire anyone else. As for the drums, she's sure that anyone will do except Reina's. But Reina promises to make sure they never look down on her again. The academy was in the midst of preparations for the festival. Soon, Hubert and Larry appeared at the port. They were dressed completely differently. They were completely unrecognizable. Hubert dressed up as a girl, putting on a dress. But Michelle thinks that at least Larry looks okay. Larry can dress like that, but Hubert can't because he has 9 tails. If people see his tails, they will immediately understand who he is. Michelle wants to put Hubert to work. He will have to act like an employee of a promotional agency. Her beauty, blush, and flush make her a real seductress. Soon, Kana approached them, not expecting to see them here. But Michelle knows that Kana was following them. Still, Kana really did help in Delran, so it's worth playing along now. The official tour program included the Dragon Lake. You can even rent a gondola here. It looks impressive and can be considered a landmark. Huber said he felt a faint trace of demonic energy. And it's not from the dragon. He feels a different energy. Larry suggested that someone had poisoned the lake. Kana decided to try it and said there was no poison. The water is slightly brackish, like limestone. This is groundwater collected in the lake. Once they have looked around enough, they finish the escort. Since Michelle has things to do after lunch, she needs to step away. Huber and Larry were surprised to hear about the performance. So Kana, Hubert, and Larry continued to enjoy the festival. Michelle has finally reached the place where her efforts will finally pay off. But she was frightened when she saw such a striking scene. Since they are counting on a prize, they must perform in a big way. With such stage effects, they can win without even playing. Since they already know about the song, now we have to talk about the lyrics. A text written by a prisoner convicted of treason. Here it is, written about the cries of people because of the rains and the incessant disasters. Michelle realized it was a classic folk protest song. This song describes the apocalypse, the end of the world, hope. They will put on a show that will reflect the whole concept of the song. They will be explorers searching for a land where humanity can put down roots. Reina will be the heart of fire, and Michelle will be the heart of ice. Eugene will become the heart of the wind, and Sarah the heart of the earth. Michelle can't believe they're going to come out with a concept like that. Sarah forgot to mention that the world is on the brink of destruction. Michelle asked why they couldn't just play the song properly. Reina laughed at Michelle's role here. Since then, Michelle has continued to ask for changes to the concept. And here's how they ended up being completely different. The embarrassment will pass, and Michelle's goal is to overturn the death sentence. After some time, their group was called on stage to prepare for the performance. Sarah greets all the audience, saying the name of the group and her club. She mentions that, unfortunately, the keyboard player is not here today, and the song they will perform is called Autumn Rain. After a short pause, a guitar melody began to play. Sarah becomes completely immersed in the atmosphere as she begins to sing. The students recognized the song and began to sing along in unison. After performing the song, Michelle thought how perfect it was, but she's not sure they're allowed to do that. A notification about a plot change has arrived. The crowd asks if they can perform another song. There is one song that everyone can happily sing along to. Before this, Michelle asked Sarah if she trusted her. This is the same song called Cardio Magic. That's how, after this, their group was summoned to the dean's office. The enraged dean asks how they dared to present such a text. If the academy had not considered it an extraterritorial zone, they would all have been arrested. Sarah felt they had to live up to the audience's expectations. The The dean asks Evan to restrain herself, as she has already been called to the dean's office many times. He will tell Count Letham that Raina has squandered all the donations on cleaning. Eugene also apologizes in advance for everything. The dean suddenly informed him that an urgent message had arrived from the north. The dean will justify his absence with his powers. Eugene thanks him and goes to prepare to leave. The dean hopes that they have understood everything in any case. In her status, Michelle noticed that the sign about the club's dissolution had disappeared. Now all that remains is to ensure that Eugene doesn't drop out of school. Michelle has to meet Hubert and the others. She wondered whether she should use the points she had earned yesterday. She'll have to improve her premonition if she wants to get clues. It is more important for her to solve the looming problem. But all she needs now is a tasty, sweet drink. This will help to raise blood sugar levels well. Michelle feels the white powder of happiness flowing through her veins. Now she's going to test Evan's skills. For some reason, her heart starts beating faster when she uses the gathering skill. If her heart tells her to, she should follow this skill. But there is a higher skill, and it is not immediately available. This is because it can be combined with other skills. Michelle decided to see what this super skill did. It turns out that this is an improvement in the quality of items. But since the real target is Michelle, she decides to leave Evan aside. Now time will increase the level of the premonition skill. But she suddenly had a dangerous feeling not to do it. Michelle is going to close her eyes and level up her skill. She thought this could be a powerful skill now. She suddenly developed the skill of inspiration. There is a low probability that a musical idea will come to her mind. Michelle can't believe she lost her sense of foreboding because of this skill. At that moment, she suddenly began coughing up blood. After that, she put all her experience into superhumanity and precision. A little later, Hubert and the others arrived at the meeting place. Michelle asked if they had a place they really wanted to go. Larry says she's always wanted to ride the Ferris wheel. They admire how well everything can be seen from above. Michelle told how she was punished in the dean's office. She clarified that the punishment was a small job. She asks Hubert if there is a way for the dragon to move south. It turns out that for Hubert, it's all easy and simple. But when Michelle asks, Hubert is already starting to have doubts. He asked the King of Machines. He will clarify and then write to them. The main thing is that it can connect to the Akashic records. Akash is called the essence of the library of all humanity. Once connected there, you can read any entry. This will make it clear whether Hubert's method works or not. In exchange for this, he asks to play with him all day today. For the first time, Hubert is relaxing like this without any unnecessary thoughts. Already in the evening, when it got dark, fireworks appeared in the sky. Larry said the finale should have fireworks. Suddenly, Michelle saw that Hubert was crying. He screams that he doesn't want today to end. Michelle remembers that he must not let people know who he is. So she covers his mouth with a handkerchief and asks him to calm down. Michelle asked Larry if he always reacted this way to alcohol. It seemed like this guy just could never get a proper rest. People were constantly attacking the tower that Hubert was defending. Kana says he can give up the family business. But Hubert wants to help his father, and Kana didn't have one. It's sad that Hubert never really had a proper rest. He doesn't want to say goodbye to Michelle and go back. It's too hard for her to ignore this. She says he can ask Gert for permission to go north with her. If there is someone nearby who knows the Dragon King, it will be less dangerous. Hubert immediately agreed to this and ran to ask. Larry apologizes for keeping her late. She also promises to contact her later and leaves. This festival was crazy until the very end. The next day, all the club members except Eugene were put to work on the construction site. They promised to help with the renovation of the canteen. One of the workers asks Michelle to help him level the structure. He thought that if the dean sent students, it would be of no use. As he said, later it would be possible to shape the glass using magic. In the original story, Sarah's assistant had teleportation powers. He was so strong that Michelle even bowed her head to him. Since he is the main character, he should know better. Suddenly, Michelle saw a bird soaring in the sky. She sent her a letter, and it seems this is Hubert's reply. After talking to the King of Machines, he rated their success at 49%. Hubert will rise north early and wait. Sarah was surprised to hear that there really was a way to stop the Dragon King. Sarah gathered before the Emperor to announce the mobilization. But to stop the dragon, it is not an army that is needed, but themselves. Sarah asked what her plan was then. They will hold a concert right in the middle of the battlefield. Michelle says that this plan was devised by someone who knows the Demon King well. Then Sarah asked why he hadn't heard from her yet. In any case, he watched the king more than they did. Surprisingly, the Demon King is actually golden. Everyone was sure that it was red. but by its nature it was not. He read a long fantasy novel where a red dragon went to the human world to have fun. Michelle will not go into details, citing copyright. The dragon is very suggestible and dependent on the atmosphere. He does it like a child, so they need a different approach. They are students who have gathered, forgetting about statuses, and also with skills that even professionals are afraid of. At this moment, the Dragon King will be completely delighted. One of the members is forced to leave the group due to personal circumstances. And the reason why Eugene left the group is the war. This means that if the Dragon King stops attacking, their group will be able to continue their activities. It won't stop the war forever, but it will work until Eugene is released. Sarah will try to be capricious and ask for an advance. After this, she asks the others to prepare for departure. Sarah went to the Emperor's reception room every day and begged for money. The song thrush rejected endless offers. Reina, on the other hand, was looking for a way to survive alone, and Michelle walked around the academy collecting donations. The martial arts department pooled money to bring back their boss. They will spend this money on food, housing, and small expenses. And finally, Michelle asks the professor if they have a chance. She asked if they could satisfy the Demon King's desires with a concert. The dean left the office and laughed loudly. When he returned, he said that there was an unexpected plan. But he still thinks it will work. Hubert will go first with a message of peace and love. Michelle still doesn't understand how the dean knows so much about the Dragon King. If his reaction is positive, then the plan is promising. Michelle clarified what would happen if she skipped this time. What would happen on the road? It is obvious that she will receive an academic warning. If they stop the war, the rector will count it as attendance. If they can handle it, there won't be any problems. Finally, they set off for Brandenburg. Sarah talked about wanting to buy food and eat it all. They bought treats and played games to kill time. And finally, Brandenburg Castle appeared ahead. Sarah's servant asked if she would like to go to the Count first. But Sarah says they're here on business, so she asks him to take them straight to the stage. In the distance, the stage where they would perform was already visible. And opposite her, not far away, there was a bunch of dragons. Michelle began to realize that this was the center of the battlefield.